The World Championship for professional drone racing teams. That is the Drone Champions League. And you join us live from our next stop of our 2019 World Tour. We started off a few months ago on top of a mountain in below zero conditions in Lax in Switzerland. We fancied a bit of warmth, to be honest with you, so we came and got some in the incredibly beautiful city of Turin in Italy, where it is plus lots of degrees, getting around the 30 mark in this incredible city, which combines beautiful classical architecture and a very modern feel in places too. It's the cultural center of North Italy. It's the capital of the Piedmont region, and it is Italy's center of innovation. So where else should we go? You find us in Turin, and it is glamorous, and that building is going to feature. We're not actually going to fly exactly around it. That would be a little bold, wouldn't it? But we'll show you. It's on our track. I'm Matt Andrews. Andre Krasny joins me, and together we will bring you the best drone racing teams in the world on a track, which is different again, like everywhere we go, Andre. But this one's got an obstacle they've never seen before.
Of course, we have what you mentioned, our Torino Tower, which will be very nice, which follows figure of 8, but in 3 dimensions. And I saw pilots practicing it. I think it's going to make for wonderful battles.
There it is. There's your first shot of Torino Tower. It is straight, don't worry. And it is quite high, and it is pretty difficult. But before we get into the racing here into Turin, and I have a feeling that one's probably going a little bit beyond our speed limits and cheating. Before we get into our racing here in Turin, if you're new to the DCL, let's show you where we've been. The Drone Champions League season kicked off with high drama in February at the first ever DCL draft selection, part of the International Games Festival in Cannes, France. Held in the Palais de Festival, home to the Cannes Film Festival, the DCL draft selection saw teams choose from 58 top international gamers. They qualified for the draft by playing DCL the game, and 100,000 visitors watched their head-to-head duels. 7 teams recruited a total of 21 new pilots for the 2019 DCL season. Then the first official race of 2019 saw the teams take off in Lax, Switzerland in March. Friday's race saw a repeat of the 2018 Grand Final, with Great Britain's X-Blades Racing taking on the USA's Quad Force 1. The British team emerged victorious once again and continued their winning streak. Race 2 on Saturday, though, told a different story, with Quad Force 1 knocked out in the quarterfinals by Drone Sports of Russia, and then the 2018 World Champions weren't far behind, getting knocked out in the semi-finals by a determined Veloce Racing of Korea. The 2 new teams to the DCL, Veloce and Drone Sports, then thrashed it out in the final, and Veloce Racing of Korea claimed their first win. Yeah, champagne has been sprayed, and by the end of today, some more will be all over the Turin stage, I think, or maybe we'll keep it dry tonight. But 2 races in the calendar already for the Drone Champions League, and as you can see, the 2-time reigning world champions X-Blades Racing are both at the top of the leaderboard, but not on their own, because also up there on 400 points, you can see Veloce Racing, our new team representing Korea, who won one of the stops in Lax. Between them, on 400, the McDonald's wildcard team. Everywhere we go, we get a team of 4 pilots to join us just for that location. The McDonald's wildcard team, recruited from pilots who played our simulator in McDonald's restaurants, they managed to get 2 third places across our 2 races. Beat out a lot of big names in our professional world championship, and they're at the top as well. But they unfortunately won't be featuring for the rest of the season. So for now, X-Blades have Veloce to think about. Behind them, Quad Force 1, Drone Sports, and Apex. As of yet, China Dragons and DMM Raiden Racing, they're yet to score any points for the season. So they're looking to turn all of that around tonight. Those are the teams, but let's show you what they really look like. From Denmark, we have Apex Racing. They've had a bad start to the season, getting knocked out early in our races. They want to get a lot of points here in Italy. All the way from China, the China Dragons. A difficult start for the season in Lax, no points yet. They brought a new pilot and one of 2018 back again. X-Blades Racing, there are 2-time consecutive world champions from Great Britain. From Japan, we have DMM Raiden Racing, one of our teams who had a good fight last season, but so far they haven't picked up any points in 2019. Our new team from Korea are Veloce Racing. They picked up 1 win in lax and they want to stay at the top of the leaderboard here. Our first team from Russia are Drone Sports Global, 4 brilliant pilots who made it all the way to the final last time. The all-loud, all-American Quad Force 1 had a reasonable start to the season. They've got some catching up to do already. And every race we have at the DCL, we have a wildcard team of pilots. So meet from Spain, In Drone Team. And we're expecting great performances from all of those. In Drone Team are our wildcard team here. So they'll feature in the 2 races that we do in Turin, but not for the rest of the season. We'll see whether or not they can match the amazing performance that we got out of the McDonald's wildcard team. There's a little bit of pressure on them here, of course. X-Blades at the top. That's not a surprise, is it, Andre? 2 races in the book. We saw them have a dominant run. Still scrapped it to the end of the season, though. It wasn't theirs for the whole time. It came down to our final stop of the season. But X-Blades, having won the championship twice, you'd expect them to start off the season well.
Absolutely. And they did. They did deliver immediately. What
a lot of people did wonder is whether the Korean team Veloce Racing would be a major threat. And for a number of people, they were like, yeah, this is the one that we need to watch out for. Yeah, X-Blades. Yeah, Quad Force 1 as well, our American team who were runners-up in the World Championship last year. But Veloce Racing from Korea with some very good pilots, some of whom we've seen before. Young Rock Sun races for them, and he was with X-Blades before. There is our pit area today. That's the first shot you've seen of our pilot area behind the stage as they are about to come on. That's Veloce Racing. That young man is the 10-year-old superstar, Min-jae Kim, who is full of smiles and absolutely brilliant in the air. And as you can see, a happy team from Veloce Racing all ready to take part. HJ on the side there, Young Rock Sun with him. It's HJ's his dad. That is Young Rock Sun waving. And of course, we have Jun Young Ho, Min-jae Kim, as I mentioned, and Seong Min Go are standing there for Veloce and right at the top of the leaderboard at the moment. How do you score points in the DCL? Let's explain that to you now. 8 teams with 4 pilots per team compete in all DCL races. 7 teams are permanent, battling for the World Championship. But everywhere we go, 1 wildcard team is selected for each event, and they compete for a single race win. Qualifying is a series of time trials on our simulator, DCL The Game. The times set by each team decide the draw for the race, and then we race on a real track over 3 rounds. Quarterfinals, semi-finals, and the grand final. In each round, 2 teams go head-to-head over 5 runs. Runs 1 to 4 are called the single heats, where 1 pilot faces another. The winner of each heat earns a heat point for their team. Then Heat 5 is known as the Big Heat, unique to the DCL, where all 8 team pilots fly, 4 against 4. The winners receive 1 point, and there are bonus points available if pilots from the same team can finish in consecutive positions behind them. Teams can also score finishing points for completing heats and training rounds. These are important because they decide the winner of a heat if 2 teams are level on the same number of heat points. The team with the most heat points after 5 runs advances to the next round, and if it's the final round, they win the Drone Grand Prix. The top 5 teams will score points on a sliding scale from 250 to 80, and then we do it all again, because every location we go to, we stage 2 races. And the team with the most points at the end of the season are crowned the DCL World Champions. So that's how all of our races will line up. There'll be a lot of them ahead of you tonight on this beautiful setting here in Turin as the sun starts its slow way down. We will show you, I'm sure, a glorious sunset as we race alongside the River Po. Some boats waiting for us, a lot of people on the shore side expecting some great racing, and I think we're going to surprise a lot of people as well, as these are the best pilots in the world, and 140 kilometers an hour is what we've seen out of them. And on this track, we might well get there too. You'll be surprised, because this track has got some very fast spots on it too. But of course, you score points in a world championship, as well as how that all gets added up for you. We do need to keep these pilots to some rules, don't we, Andre? We do need to keep them in, and they mostly well behave, but this is how we make sure. Flying clean and fast is the dream in the Drone Champions League, but you've always got to follow the rules. Teams design and build their own drones. Some parts are standard, but there are strict limits on weight, power, battery life, and LED performance. Pilots have to wait for a green light before taking off. Start too soon, and you're going to be disqualified from the heat with an early start. If a drone doesn't start because of a technical problem, the pilot can use a spare, but if that fails, you're out of the race. Every closed air gate has to be passed in the correct order and in the right direction. If pilots miss a gate, they have to go back and try again before moving on to the next one. Continuing after missing a gate is going to get you disqualified. If they crash, the pilots decide themselves if their drone is fit to continue. And if all pilots in a heat crash, the one who flew furthest takes the heat point. The winner of the heat is the first drone through the Red Bull finish gate. The pilots are ranked according to their finishing times. Teams can protest during a heat if they feel a rule's been broken or if it wasn't applied correctly. And if the chief judge upholds their protest, the team will get a rerun. But if the case is rejected, no more protests are allowed. Penalty cards can be issued if rules are broken. A yellow card is a warning. 2 yellows, that's a red and disqualification. Okay, so that's the rules, and we've done the format, and we've shown you who's racing, but you really do want to see what this Riverside track looks like. So let's take you around it with Chief. I will get to him in a moment, actually. This is Chief Judge Lucas Baumann, who is live on our stage. He has a brilliant team of spotters and our race director behind the scenes as well. That is where our pilots will sit as they compete in our race. And Lucas will keep them in check. And if there are any protests from them as to what happened in a race and whether they want to rerun, then that'll go with Lucas. I will now take you to the track. I'm so excited to show it to you. A little bit hasty. Let's go there now with Alex Campbell.
One. Yeah. What's up, everybody? I'm Alex Campbell. Most of you know me as the Chief, and today we're at our DCL stop number 2 in Turin, Italy. And man, I cannot wait to take you through this track. It's gonna be a great day. Come with me. And here we are at our first obstacle. Straight after we have the aggressive launch to a full throttle straightaway, we're gonna be coming through the Breitling gate. This is gonna be a super tricky gate because all 8 quads will be funneling through one gate at a time. So after we've went through our first Breitling gate, we come to the second feature on the track, and that's the double cube tower. So we're gonna start by going up to the top blue lit pylon, doing a 360 around the top, coming to the top cube gate. We're gonna go enter, going through and exit, and another 360, wrapping around for the bottom and final cube gate of the tower. Let's go to the next obstacle. This is gonna be one of my favorite spots on the track. It's a double 180 through the I-time gate, but it's what makes it super cool to me is the optimal race line. We have to bounce out 10 to 15 feet over the water to make this double 180 through the I-time gate as straight as possible. We're gonna exit through the top into another 180 around some light posts onto the back straightaway. To enter the straightaway, we're gonna be on the right side of the pylon, 180 around the top, and head down this huge straightaway that's actually gonna be filled with spectators down low. Should be a super awesome sight to look up and see 8 quads battling it out down the straightaway. So once we come into the Drone Champions League gate, we're gonna enter through the face of it, coming through it and exiting on the outside line into what is one of the most crucial spots on the Drone Champions League track, and that is the Red Bull finish gate. New and improved, it should make for even better racing, less crashing at the end, and it should be super fun to head into this thing at 80, 90 miles an hour. I hope you enjoy the race, and don't forget, come watch Drone Champions League, and we'll battle it out to the end tonight.
And that is the Red Bull finish gate. And yes, it's different and new and bigger. And yes, you know that in lax, it got a beating, the old one. So this is really the Red Bull revenge, because it's big and it is not going to succumb to anything, we think. Let's not tempt fate. After our qualifying was done, which is done in our game, DCL the game, that you can download now for free on early access on Steam, Quad Force 1 lead their way into Italy as top of our leaderboard with about a half-second cumulative lead over X-Blades Racing, right up there behind them as we've seen before. Drone Sports Global from Russia in third, Apex in fourth, and need to get a lot of points out of today. Veloce, remember, top of the leaderboard for the World Championship right now with X-Blades Racing. They're down in fifth and qualifying, and Raiden Racing and China Dragons, who need points today, are getting their qualifying out in 6th and 7th, respectively. The in-drone team are wildcards 5 seconds behind them, so they will face off against Quad Force 1 in quarterfinal number 2. That's the top against the bottom seed. Drone Sports will face DMM later on. X-Blades Racing will have China Dragons, but we will start things off right now, live to you in Turin, with a great matchup. Our quarterfinal number 1 is here, and it is Veloce against Apex. Let's meet the pilots representing Apex Racing here in Italy. It's Dane Grace, who joined us in lax. Noah Koch makes his first appearance for DCL. Timothy Trowbridge, who we've seen many times and a reigning world champion of the DCL, and his fourth teammate is Eric Holden. They are Apex Racing. There we are, set up on our stage. Goggles getting about ready. There's Timothy, who I mentioned, previous world champion. He used to race for X-Blades Racing. He's here with Apex. That's the team on one side of our stage, but here come the Koreans. Young Rock Sun, another reigning world champion with X-Blades. Jun Young Hyo. His teammate Seung Min Go again, and new for the DCL this time, it's Min Jae Kim. We'll go to our stage where their team manager HJ wants to tell us more.
We are in Turin for this year, man, and we are going to beat the Apex again. Now let me introduce my pilot. This is Seung-min Go. His name is Freddy, fresh and ready, man. And this is the youngest pilot in this year, 10 years old, Theo Min Jae Kim. And this is a rapid, Jun Young Ha. He is 16 years old. He's so fast. And this is a legend, Young Noxon, Young Money! Yeah, we are ready for beating Apex now, man!
I am out of a job. That is how you do it. HJ, the team owner of Veloce Racing, is ready. I'm not sure our drones could beat him round this course, let alone each other. Absolutely fantastic. Quarterfinal number 1. Thank you, HJ. Thank you, Veloce. Apex Racing, they have got, well, a challenge in their hands right here. So let us know if you're joining us on YouTube or Facebook who you think is going to win the first scrap of the day. Is it going to be Apex or is it going to be Veloce? You heard him say it. You heard HJ say it. We're going to beat them again. They did when we were racing in lax at our first stop of the year, which is a few months ago now. But when they did race, it went 4-1 to Veloce in the quarterfinal of the second day. Yeah, Apex did manage to get one of the points there, but they've had a struggle really altogether, haven't they, Andre? As the start of a season, Apex not where they would have expected to be. There are some changes in the team, indeed. They have a new team member, Eric. Eric is well known in FPV community, so I'm following the chat, and I think a lot of people is expecting top performance from this pilot. Now, we've got a little bit of issue getting this race underway. Timothy Trowbridge, who you saw earlier on with his FPV goggles, taking them off, putting them back on again. I think we're having a little bit of trouble getting his ready. That's a 10-second countdown, though. Perhaps our first race is upon us. That's what Timothy might fly with. That is literally what he sees in his FPV goggles. He's up into the air, that's what he's using, and it's a good start. It's 200ths of a second between him and Young Rock Sun. It's Timothy Trowbridge and Young Rock Sun, two pilots who used to fly for X-Blades together, but Timothy is out of this already put his drone down. So we will see our first sight of our course live here in Turin and a first sight of a protest flag as Jan Rotson makes his way back along that massive straight. And we're going to be talking about that throughout the evening, as that is something that you might be surprised to find, a lot of pilots find is a really difficult challenge. DCL and the brightening gate is how you end it. We will be doing a few more laps than that normally, but Jan Rotson gets Turin underway. Our Drone Grand Prix's first point goes easily to Veloce, unless that protest flag waved by Timothy gets a rerun. And there was something wrong with his video from the start, Andre.
Clearly there was something wrong with the video. I mean, all those pilots are world class and they can fly through a terrible video, but that was very, very bad. We can see on the rerun possibly. This is still flyable, but it's getting worse, and he basically lost his video feed. This is not possible. It's impossible to fly like that, especially that he would have to continue the maneuver and circle around the Torino Tower. And of course, Youngruk is delivering the first drone into our new finisher gate.
So the Red Bull finish gate, not going to be crashed into anymore. The Red Bull finish gate has arrived. Now, something has flown into it. So we'll find out whether that protest gets more news. As you can see, it's pretty warm here in Turin. We had the Koreans feeling the cold when we were in lax. Now they are seemingly feeling the heat. I'll try and find out what goes on with Timothy's protest there as soon as we can. Meanwhile, we are spinning up our next couple of drones to make sure they're armed and ready. Next race will be our first scene. Noah Koch, who's riding for us. Name of Unreal FPVs, 23 from Gothenburg. 4th in the FAI World Cup last year, Andre. This is a very good pilot.
This is an excellent pilot, and also he's actually known in Korea because I attended both with Noah a race in Korea, and he was sticking to the top.
Jun Young Ho lines up for Veloce. And both drones take to the Italian sky with not very much between them. And there's first sights in racing of our Torino Tower. You go round at 360 degree one way, 180 back the other way, and then through the bottom, and then it's a split S over the I-time gate. And these pilots side by side will go around the pylon and find out that there's only just about a 1/10 of a second between them as they attack our longest straight we've ever had. Then you come through that DCL closed air gate, and Koch starts to pull away around the tower. He'll come through the middle of it, turn left and do a 180 back the other way and come through the bottom, and then over the I-time gate, split S it and come back, and Hyo is starting, well, maybe starting to close it back on him, but he's got to start pulling it together now. We are on 1 and a bit seconds between them, but Hyo has come down into the netting. That is the netting over a tunnel where if you're here in Turin, you can actually stand underneath our drone race and see all the drones fly directly over you. And in comes Koch. Koch will get a point for Apex. That one, I'm sure, isn't going to get processed unless there was a technical issue with Hyo's drone. What do you think made it come down, Andre?
That's actually a very good question. They stayed very close, as we can see on the Torino Tower. That was extremely close. We could also see it during the race. Yeah, very close. That's the risky element, but probably also one of the most fun elements of the track. Super close.
You get a good line there, as you see, did clip the I-time gate on the way out of that, but still easily able to fly. It just held him up a little bit. This is, though, where he kind of came down.
Oh, he dipped. He went a little bit too deep.
Yeah.
It's a little bit difficult, I guess, to see all of the netting, and he unfortunately catched it with his quad.
So that's unfortunate. So we've got a lot of you watching here on YouTube and Facebook. Thank you for joining us. Let us know how you think this group is going to turn out. Who's going to progress on our first day of racing here in Turin? Matthew Evans, hello to you. How many quads do I think will lose to the water? There's already 3 of them in it, or have been in it. We got 3 in there in training yesterday. I see Andre's already beat me to that answer. Yeah, 3 went in the water yesterday. We've got them back out. It's not too deep. It is about 1.5 meters, but if you remember our first location of 2018 when we were in the Munich Olympic Park from 1972, And the beautiful Munich Lake there was a massive feature in that race, wasn't it, Andre? You flew a lot over that. A lot of drones went in there. And at the end of the day, X-Blades Racing went in there as well. But I suspect not into this river. Although, go on. Whoever wins, go on. Anyway, next race is ready. And it's our first appearance of Min-Jae Kim, or is it? His drone is flickering on the starting blocks. Oh, man, that's unfortunate as Dane Grace makes his way through the Torino Tower. Kim could get into this race if he can get that drone off the blocks, so it is worth racing for Dane Grace, unless our Chief Judge, Lucas Baumann, tells him that it's over, and he's got a little bit of a difficult picture at the furthest point of the course from the stage. This is a good view here over our tunnel where our beautiful audience here can come and join us. Then you do that left, and you go through the gates or not if you're told that that race is over, and Min-Jae Kim doesn't get that first race in the books. That's unfortunate for him.
It's very hard to say what happened, but his quad was flickering. This is never a good sign. As if there would be a problem with arming, or he was trying re-arming it. It's very difficult to say actually what
we can
happening.
see the video picture from all of the drones. It's what the pilots see in their goggles. It's what you're seeing as well when we bring it to you. And yeah, his drone, I mean, the video is there, but it is flickering. Is the whole drone maybe having a power issue, Andre?
Yeah, that could be the case, obviously. Yeah, that's possible.
You can see Dane didn't have an easy view of it as he was bringing his home either. Nice big Red Bull finish gate.
Yeah.
2-1, go. Apex up over Veloce. So we'll go to our fourth single heat shortly, which will be between another pilot we haven't seen race from him yet, Eric Holden, who will be taking on Seungmin Go. And he had a great start to the season. He was representing for his team. You'll see what he can do. Go raced in 4 single heats in our 2 events in Lax in Switzerland. 4 single heats, he won 3 of them. Let's see what he can do here. He's in purple for Veloce Racing, and Holden is in white for Apex, and slightly behind him, but not too far. Both of them taking a pretty much similar route around that pylon turn, and then down the straight we come. And that seems like a bit of an mid-air as they were both heading towards that DCL gate at the end of turn. Go is still in the air. Holden is in the net, and Go continues on. But I think he's realized or been told Holden is out, so bring that drone home before he gets any more damage. Go will even the score 2-all, rerun notwithstanding. We get mid-airs. It's nobody's fault, really. It's just part of racing.
Indeed, Eric was catching up with Ko. Yeah, we can see exactly, and they just touched. Unfortunately, there is no way to escape from the netting, so not much can be done about it. But his maneuver was very good. He cut it very close. It was going pretty well. And that's exactly what Matt said. There is a tunnel which is full of spectators, and they can actually watch the battles from up close, above them and next to them.
So Go gets another single heat point to his record. That's 4 out of 5 now. And now, if you are new to the DCL, you're about to see all 8 of them fly. We hope. Let's hope we get all of them in the air. Go's trying another drone. Noah Koch is having trouble with his one on the starting platform right now, and Trowbridge's video isn't getting any better. That's unfortunate for the Apex team, because what we're looking at now is big heat time, where all 8 drones will fly at the same time. Win this, you pick up a point for your team, and if a teammate comes in second behind you, then you get 2. 3 if you come in first, second, and third. And this time round, if you can clean sweep your opposition, we're going to give you 5. So even if you lose all of the single heats, there are now 5 points available. 5 points available for winning this outright with all of your pilots beating all of the others. And that is very, very, very rarely seen. If it remains 2-all, then it's just going to be whoever gets this first is going to be taking their team through to the semi-finals, and Apex would love to get that. Yeah, Trowbridge is having a lot of issues with his video for Apex, and Noah Koch is not having a lovely picture on there. Everybody else is looking pretty neat to fly, so it's looking like Veloce have got a good chance here of having all 4 of their pilots fly in this one, but there's Timothy Trowbridge, and as you can see, that's not something he can... Well, there's the best he's getting. Not sure what that video issue is. They've been training throughout today and last night, of course. We've been here for a couple of weeks now, setting everything up. It's been a frustrating start of the season for Timothy. And that video doesn't appear to be better. They can bring a spare drone with them to the starting blocks. I imagine he's got one, and I imagine this is it. Those are our starting blocks. And for the big heat, as I say, all 8 drones will race. We put our slowest pilots in qualifying at the front of that starting block, and the fastest ones are at the back. So let us know, YouTube and Facebook, who do you think is going to win? Is it Apex or Veloce going through to the semi-finals? Bit of pressure, of course, Andre, as this kind of delay happens. That's Noah's view. He's got issues too.
There's nothing more frustrating than the technical issues preventing pilots from performing. We know they are world class and they really want to race.
This is such a disappointment for him. Now, Trowbridge's video has got a lot better. I think a power cycle on his drone has actually improved that, or maybe the... it's coming and going, I'm not going to lie to you.
It seemed it has been replaced. We could see someone in the pit replace a quad. Maybe it was Timothy's, actually.
While we await the big heat, HJ on our stage, thank you for that incredible intro you gave us earlier on. You are extremely confident about your team's chances.
Again? Again? Okay, yeah, no. I'm joking. You're nervous, right? I'm professional, yeah. Man. Here's HJ. We have some issue for the video transmitter, but we are waiting for race for big hit now. We are at the tied 22, so we need to just one first place, but we don't know about the first Timothy and Youngrock. There's some protest, so if we have some results. First and second, there will be no rerun. But if we will be first, maybe we have a rerun Youngrock and Timothy. I think so, yeah, man.
Thank you, HJ, for bringing us some more live information from stage. He's full of smiles, isn't he? So is that Korean team as well. But it's pressure now, isn't it? You're sat there waiting to race. Everything was good to go, although, to be fair, Timothy Trowbridge had problems with the single heat earlier on. But, Andre, how do you deal with that? Everybody's kind of got a different way of I think waiting and being in his own. Some people are goggles up, some people stay in there.
Indeed. Some people use chewing gum as a way to focus. Apparently, the motoric motion helps to concentrate a bit more. Oh. Some people take deep breaths. There is multiple methods. Asking the pilots, we could discover there is many more, actually.
Some of our pilots listen to music. Some of our pilots prefer not to. Some of our pilots like chatting to each other.
Indeed. Was it Alex, the chief, who said that he likes to chat to his teammates?
Yes. The Quad Force One talk to each other as though they're not racing. So they kind of forget about, not completely forget about, but they try and forget about the stress about what they're doing by just treating each other normally, which is a good approach for a team as chatty as Quad Force One. But for Apex, and particularly for Timothy, and why I keep talking about Timothy, he's raced for 2 years in the DCO. He's raced with X-Base Racing. Now he comes here in our new Danish team, and they hadn't have a very good start of it in Lax, and now here they are in Veloce. And Timothy is the reigning world record holder, as verified by the FAI in China last December, for fastest straight line racing. He picked up the world record for that in December. Here on our track in Turin, we have the longest straight we've ever had. Now, I'm not saying the quad that he's using on this course and that Apex has got is the same one as he set that record with. I'm not saying it's even designed the same way or got the same components. But that's a pilot who likes to go fast in a straight line, and we've got 170 meters of it. And he's not yet getting in the air to find out what he can show us there.
Indeed. I wonder if he got challenged by other pilots. But indeed, he's holding that title.
Looks like it's 2-2 going into this big heat. We will try and confirm to you if that rerun is going to be granted. So the pilots have to treat it basically like it is now. And then if the rerun of the first single heat that Timothy couldn't fly in, if that does get a chance to be rerun, then there's 1 point available from that, and that could change things. But if this big heat means that 1 point can't change anything, we won't get that single heat rerun. Now that's Timothy, goggles up again. That's his drone, which has been looking like this for a while now. Good, what, 20 seconds or so? It's better than it was. And this is properly drama now. And Noah Koch is looking a lot cleaner on his. Xiaoming Go's drone, though, is being repositioned, I think. They've been on the blocks for quite a long time now. Let's see, there's Timothy. So Timothy's is the furthest away from us on the right. Behind him, Koch's drone is flickering. And Koch's drone, if anything, is not getting any better.
Ten seconds countdown.
Well, here it comes. For Apex and Veloce, winner on this may well take their team to the semi-finals outright. We get 8 drones into the air, 7, 8. Kim's not in it again, Min-Jae Kim. Bad start for him, and he's out wide over the water. Carrying on around our pylon, though. It looks like Go with a good start. Has crashed it, though, which means up front it's Apex in 1, 2, and Timothy Trowbridge in 3. There's the straight. The other end of it as they come around and then complete that DCL turn and head towards the Torino Tower. Go around it through the top, then left around it and back through on the bottom side of it. And currently it looks like Dane Grace is leading with Eric Holden and Timothy Trowbridge in a 1, 2, 3. That'll mean that rerun does not matter at all. Holden is almost second behind him. Trowbridge a little way behind that, but leading the way for Veloce, possibly Young Rock Sun, although we've got an under review for FPV, which means that this is going to get looked at again, see if there was a video issue for him, and if it was, that might lead to a rerun of the whole big heat. We'll get there if we get there. Young Rock Sun, regardless of his video issue, seems to be fine. It's not a bad picture, and he's keeping that in the air, but it is Grace and Holden completing the long straight. Grace is pulling away now, if anything. Song is some way behind them. And Grace brings it home. Holden makes it 2. And there is Dane cheering on in a big win there. But video is the reason why Young Rock Sun is holding that. Andre, explain that for us if you can, because we get the access to all of the drone's video feed as the pilot sees it, and he's got picture.
That's very difficult to say what happened, actually. But that was one busy heat. I saw something quite unique. One of the Korean drones touched the water for a split second and managed to actually save it very close to the Torino Tower. That was quite amazing. Yeah. Oh. But I'm pretty sure initially it took back into the air. It went back.
So 2 drones were still in the air while we were trying to figure out what had happened at the front of the track, and one of them is not in the air. You know where that is. And here's the first sight. Somebody keep score. In the chat, let us know. Matthew Evans asked, so let's have a little raffle, no prizes. How many drones are going in the water here in Turin? We've had 3 yesterday, but as of racing-wise, 1 so far. Yeah, it's a very slow start for one of...
So busy. Insanely close. Insanely close.
Timothy, who was having all those video issues, this is what he was managing to fly with.
Oh, there you
go. Oh, okay.
So that's what happened.
There's Dane, just clipping the edge. You can't say that hole's not big enough, Dane. Got it in there, though. That's the main thing. Doesn't matter if you hit it on the way in, as long as it goes through. So, protest being handed in there by HJ, who you know very well now as the boss of Veloce. So, Young Rock Sun, who seem to be featuring in that heat, and I think even came in 3rd, but obviously behind Grace and Holden. And a big team of runners helping us out here, our volunteers here in Turin. And it's looking currently like it's 4-2. So if Young Rock Sun's protest is upheld and he is granted a rerun, then we'll go back to 2-all and that big heat will get run again. But it is unusual to see a pilot come in 3rd and then seems to have been reviewed for FPV, which means we think there may be something wrong with the video.
Could be also extra motivation if he actually if his video improved. he might have raced extra hard, trying to catch up.
So there's drama here between Apex and Veloce, and that is going to need to get sorted out soon while a drone gets recovered. And if you're wondering, if you're new to the DCL, yeah, some of these drones can fly again. If they land in water, a lot of the components are coated, aren't they, Andre?
Indeed, some of the components are coated, and actually sweet water is not that big of a threat as we would initially think. I probably have something to say about it. I did it multiple times, and after drying, most of the components are actually perfectly fine and in the perfect working order. So that should not be that big of a deal, indeed.
So yeah, they do coat them. I see some people asking that in our chat on YouTube and Facebook. Salt water, on the other hand, like Salina Turner, where we were last year, that does the year before, that does not turn out well. So Veloce currently might be out in the quarterfinal stage, and Apex progressing on for the first time this year. But ahead of us is quarterfinal 2, where the wildcards take on the Americans. Our in-drone team will be coming onto the stage as our wildcards. In-drone wildcard team, let's go to their team manager on stage.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we got Quad Force 1, Team America. And first seat, we got Soren Anderson. Second one, we got Mewow. Third one, we got the Chief. And coming up, we've got Heads Up.
Always watch the camera. He gives you the sign, okay?
So that was Dwayne, who is the team manager of Quad Force 1, whose pilots you've just met. And here they are for their positions. It's a very, very efficient team, and currently #1 in our leaderboard, of course. And the same lineup as we had at our stop in Lax in Switzerland, our first races of the season, where they made it all the way to the final and came second on day 1, but then got knocked out in the quarterfinals by the Russians on day 2. So, not where they wanted to be in our leaderboard yet, but they are looking relaxed. As we said earlier on, they like to talk a lot on stage. That's how they kind of deal with it. But on the other side of the stage, we do have here Marcel Isha, along with Mikael Garriga, Isaac Massot, and Mark Roman. That's who's lining up as our wildcard team. We have the 7 professional teams who are looking to compete for the World Championship, and then we give local pilots and wildcard pilots, and depends on where we go, 4 pilots come together and maybe compete for those spots or are picked for those spots. Here, they qualified for this by taking part in drone races for in-drone, and we have these 4 brilliant pilots who have, let's be fair, a big challenge. They have the best in qualifying to race, as the in-drone team came out last in qualifying. But you could take that as a kind of nothing to lose approach, couldn't you, Andre?
I guess it's also a very difficult position to join the league, professional league, and just go against the best pilots in the world. So obviously they have nothing to lose. They can do their best. They can have fun. They should not blink, though.
Ah, well, that's true.
There was a drone which was blinking. I wonder what's going to happen with that.
Mark Roman will start things off for in-drone team. And Soren Monroe Anderson is going to be his opponent, who's raced in 4 single heats and won all of them.
10 seconds countdown.
The 2018 Catalan champion against the New England champion. And away they both leave our starting blocks. And Roman is high around the tower, and I guess that is Anderson with no LEDs, who is in the air behind him, or is that our camera drone? No, our camera drone, I think, filming is out over the river, so that is Roman still in air, and Anderson... Yeah, he's coming out over the netting now, so he's still in the air, and he's about to complete the end of his first lap, whereas Roman is starting his second. This is Roman's view around the tower. As you can see, he's standing up and flying, pinched with his controller. Roman comes out through here and will do the split S over the I-time gate, spin his way back around the pylon, and then head to the far end of our course with a tight 180 around the pylon and makes his way back through. Anderson has got video issues. He hasn't even made it to the pylon. There he goes. Anderson is around the pylon now as Roman completes the straight at the other end and starts his third lap. Brightening gate and will make his way around the tower. It's 3 laps, remember. You come through this side, left 180 and then down through the bottom. He's clipped something on the exit of it, and as he exits the tower, Anderson is starting to gain some ground as he was coming into it. Roman will come along at the far end and start the 170-meter straight in a pretty slow time compared to what we saw in the first quarterfinal, and Anderson, I think, is finished here. I think his video and his drone and everything is given up for dead. Roman will make the DCL gate. Anderson will wave flag. Roman will turn up into the Red Bull finish gate now. So you saw a protest flag getting waved there by Soren Anderson, but at the moment, the first point goes to Mark Roman of the in-drone wildcard team. We do have a camera drone flying around as well, if you're wondering if there's a third drone in the air. There it is.
Indeed, that was a little bit confusing. I couldn't locate Soren for a while, but
his LEDs aren't working, so to be honest, that kind of gets you disqualified from the heat anyway.
I think that could be a problem. Oh, it looks like he lost control on the straight line.
So Anderson, although we saw him waving the protest flag for maybe video or something like that, if you are starting a race without your LEDs working, you don't get a rerun that. You are just disqualified out of that heat anyway because you didn't have the LEDs. So Anderson is disqualified from that. The point is Roman's. And news for you now is that quarterfinal 1, the reruns have been investigated of the single heat and the big heat, and they aren't being granted. We did question why those protests were going in, didn't we, Andre? Those reruns are not being granted, which means Veloce Racing fall in the quarterfinals to Apex today. Huge result for Apex, Andre. We'll dig into that a little bit more later on. We will concentrate right now on quarterfinal number 2, where we are, and our single heat, which lines up between Corey Ibanez and Isaac Massot. Massot Sala takes to the air. Ibanez is half a second behind him, and Sala will complete the turn, but Ibanez looks like he's going to fight him in there, and he likes a bit of a tight, twisty bit like that. They'll split S over I-time and make their way out. And it is Sala who's now got over half a second between him and Ibanez, slightly more gap than it was. They'll complete that, and Ibanez, where is he attacking that DCL closed air gate from? I think he's given a bit more time to Sala there. As you can see, another half a second has been gained. And Sala will come out of the Torino tunnel, and Ibanez, remember, he's got 3 laps in which you can try and catch him, but Ibanez has clipped the side and got in the water, and that is a massive disaster for Quad Force 1. A huge problem for them. We'll concentrate on board with Isaac Massot Sala as he is going to get this second point, but a massive problem for Quad Force 1. Because in terms of drones, they are short of them in Italy. Quad Force 1 are flying with really barely enough drones between them, and to put one in the water is the last thing they wanted to see. What brought him down, Andre?
I didn't spot what exactly brought him down. But
it's going to get out of the water, and it's going to get recovered. It is only 1.5 meters deep. We have the means to get them back, obviously. We will recover everything that goes in that river. And as we already talked about, coating means it can get dried out and maybe flown again tomorrow, but not today.
I can attest to flying it the same day. I can recall certain competition of DCL in Brussels where I dried my quad and I was immediately flying it. That was actually very good. I'm quite impressed with the performance.
I think this is where he comes.
Oh.
Where's he's
It looks like
so did he hit? I don't think he hit anything.
No, it looks like
he just kind of spun round and then he just dropped it.
Basically, it looks like a failsafe, like he lost control over his quad. But he struggled throughout the whole heat, and Isak was actually pushing it quite hard. Very good performance from this pilot, quite a debut.
Well, there's the face of a disappointed pilot. And this is exactly where in-drone team would like to be. They've got a 2-point lead in this. They've got the Chiefs to contend with next. Alex Campbell will race for Quad Force 1.
10 seconds countdown.
And he has Mikel Garriga Sanchez to face. Garriga with a good start, but Campbell is away and will attack this tower, the fast turning pilot that we know he is. This is a well-known competitor in the DCL. You saw him take us around our track earlier on, but he is now behind Sanchez. Sanchez will accelerate away and somehow has put 4/5 of a second between him and Campbell. Completing the end of lap number 1, and Campbell is down on the ground. Coming off of that turn and heading for the DCL closed air gate. Big smiles on his face. I've seen that look before. It's good to see him smiling, but that is also sometimes a smile of a guy who thinks it's not his day. And that's not really what we want to see from a team as good as Quad Force 1. It is going to be 3-0. And this is massive for the whole World Championship. Our other teams are watching this in amazement because Quad Force 1 were the best in our simulator. DCL the game, that's how you do our qualifying for day 1 of our locations. You race it in our actual video game simulator. You can do this too. You can download it for free on PC and Mac through Steam, and you can play on our tracks. You can see how you would compare to our pilots. There's a good start from Campbell, but Sanchez had him before they got to the straight.
It's very interesting to see what happened later on. It looked like a failure of Alex's quad. For no apparent reason. He's taking that turn, and then he's losing control. Could be a failure, could be an ESC, could be what I said, speed regulator. It didn't look like a failsafe really, more like a failure of speed controller indeed. I mean, actually, Alex had those sort of issues in lags where actually his speed controller was causing a totally abnormal behavior of his quad.
Now, yellow card has been issued on stage to Mikel Garriga Sanchez for flying too high. He didn't go, there it is, too high, says Lucas Bellman. Not within the maximum safety limits, because if that happened, then there's a different penalty for that. But a yellow card, get 2 of those, and it escalates to a red, and then things happen from there. But as for now, that is a warning in terms of keeping within track limits for Sanchez. Our chief judge will clarify matters there. I think he's just going to say they went. He mouthed it to them. 4th single heat. That is when we're going to see the best in qualifying from each team. They start at the back of our starting blocks, as I mentioned already. The best in qualifying face each other. Our proud Catalan pilot. He is Marcel Isha Bergel, and he is going to race against the well-known and brilliantly deadly Evan Turner. If Evan Turner gets a video picture out of his drone, because right now, he doesn't have one. Isha's drone is being lifted up, but Turner's. You get a little look there at the differences in the drone. The green one is for the wildcard team, the blue one for Quad Force 1, and he's using sporting struts there, Andre. He's doing that sort of H-frame of having a strut from the front left rotor to the rear rear left, and same on the right-hand side. Tell us what that's for.
Indeed, it is to stabilize the frame, so there is no difference between front and rear arms. That will have dramatic impact on tuning, so that will help to eliminate all the vibrations and actually make the whole tuning much easier, if not possible. So that's a very good addition to the frame. Yeah.
And it adds a bit of weight, of course, but there's a reasonable weight limit here. You can go up to a kilogram. It has to be between 850 grams and a kilogram, so there's a little bit to play with.
Indeed.
And for Quad Force 1 and for some of the pilots on X-Blades as well, they seem to prefer that stability, but they don't all have it.
Indeed, but actually the parts which are stabilizing front and the rear arms are usually quite light. They are not made to make the frame stronger, just to make it stiffer. So the weight difference will not be that dramatic, and I think the benefit is actually quite big. So that's definitely a good addition. If needed, one could use much thicker arms, which would accomplish similar goal, I guess. All depends on the design. We've seen quite some interesting designs. For instance, Russian team is having very interesting frame, which has what it seems very good center of gravity. Their frame is quite unique in that sense. The battery sits much deeper in the frame itself, actually. It's almost between the motors, which, when we think about it, should actually benefit the roll axis and improve handling of the quad.
Got people asking our chat a little bit more about the drone. So they're 360 millimeters from center to center across the motors, but yes, you can have different designs. There's certain things you have to to be part of the DCL, to work with our tracks when we build them in incredible places like this, or underground, or on mountains, or on great walls, and near those, and that kind of thing, wherever we go. But there's quite a lot of play, isn't there, Andre, in the design and what you can do with it. There's a canopy that we give them, but fins and things, people are trying those kind of things for aerodynamics as the sport progresses.
Indeed, there's actually quite a lot of freedom when it comes to the frame itself. The dimensions are regulated, but
10 seconds countdown.
There are very many different designs there, indeed.
Right, we've got video. That's Turner's. It's not perfect. That is terrible. And it's almost like he knew that was going to happen. The laughter on stage from his teammates.
Sounded like Alex.
It did, didn't it? Well, Marcel Isha-Begel will show us around Italy. Bravely taking the long route over the River Po. And 4-0. Wow. This is astonishing right here in Turin. You're going to see Evan Turner's drone.
We could see one of the propeller was not spinning, the rear left. Well, of course, we need all four to work properly. That could be the motor, that could be the speed controller, we call ESC quite often. But that's definitely a no-go for racing.
Well, this is a good time then, I guess, to talk about Quad Force 1's drones, because they've had trouble.
Something is up, indeed, and they are very limited in the amount of drones. And from what we can see, even the ones they have at their disposal are not functioning properly. Yeah,
they are not here with armfuls of spares of them. They've really got the minimum they need for their pilots to compete in single heats and big heats. And as you saw earlier, one of Corey's is in the river. I think it would be a miracle if that is dried out by the end of today. But the way this is looking, they aren't going to be racing beyond this next heat, because it is 4-0. Quad Force 1 have to come in first, second, third, and fourth. All of their pilots head of in-drone team. And to be fair, and not to take anything away from in-drone team, Quad Force 1 are the runners-up in last year's World Championship. They could easily, with this caliber of pilots, come in first, second, third, and fourth. They were top in qualifying. In-drone team were last in qualifying. There is a big timing difference between these pilots when they are all flying at their best. Quad Force 1 could wipe out in-drone team, come in first, second, third, and fourth, get 5 points, find themselves in the single heat, the semi-finals. But Soren Anderson doesn't even have a picture right now, and Evan Turner's is okay, and Campbell's is bad. And 4 of these coming in top 4 is not looking likely.
I already saw one quad which passed arming test, but was not spinning all rotors on the blue team. So they will not be able to score 4 points the way it looked a few seconds ago. This is the worst scenario where pilots cannot perform due to technical failures.
CCR Runners on stage telling him to spin up. And chatting to these brilliant Spanish pilots. They were ready to have fun, but of course they were nervous. It's a big stage. It's a world championship. We are live around the world on TV. They knew they needed to show up, and they also knew they were going to be racing the best in qualifying, because qualifying results were out a few days ago. And of course, it's Quad Force 1. That's a big team to be alongside on stage.
Indeed. Marcel is also quite a bit out of focus. He set up his camera, was quite out of focus. The obstacles of this course are quite visible, so that should not be a problem, but we can see it's very, very blurry indeed.
Anderson has some picture now. He had nothing earlier. Turner's is bad. I think I'm hearing them say we're going to treat this as practice. Remember, we are racing again tomorrow. Live on YouTube and Facebook. The timing's a little bit different. Tomorrow we are going to be live an hour earlier, so from 7 p.m. Central European time. That's when you need to join us to see how these teams fare on day 2 of our racing. So we do 2 races everywhere we go around the world. And of course on day 2, pilots have had a bit more time on our track, not just in our simulator, but they've flown our training and they've competed on day 1. So they know the track a bit better. They know how to attack it maybe a little bit differently. But if you're Quad Force 1, you are looking short of quads to fly.
Indeed, I think it's going to be a night of fixing quads, which I know all too well as well, from my perspective. I think the gear has to be fixed and tested to perform like it should tomorrow.
You do fly under the name of Sir Crash a lot.
I might be afraid there is a reason for that. I have a certain history.
You didn't
flying.
go for Sir Build a lot?
I could have.
Put a positive spin on it?
I could have. I should have called you, Matt, and asked for advice, indeed, because crashing means building or fixing, indeed. On competitions like that, it means for our friends from Quad Force 1, it means definitely checking the gear and having it ready for tomorrow so they can compete at the top of their level.
Well, we've got video pictures across all of the American drones,
10
and I
seconds
see
countdown.
increasingly more and more of the drone racing community joining us here on Facebook and YouTube. If you've missed our racing earlier on, and welcome to you, whether you're new to all of this or whether you've been with us a long time, you're about to see Quad Force 1 try and race a big heat at all. Not one of them has left the starting block, not one. Campbell's is twitching on it, but it's not getting airborne. This isn't a video issue. This is something else entirely. Turner's trying to twitch his. It's come off the block. It's on the ground. It's going nowhere. So we'll concentrate on who are in the air, which are the 4 Spanish pilots of in-drone team parading this around like it's some kind of exhibition parade lap. And coming home, because it's done. And by done, I mean the almost never seen 8-9-0 win for a team over another. Not normal circumstances, of course, but there on our stage, you see almost, well, quite reasonably in disbelief, Isak Massot-Sala and his teammates have beaten Quad Force 1 9-0.
Oh, we can see the quads are not even spinning all the motors. So I noticed 2 of them malfunctioning. So that could be sign of the protest that all the pilots did not participate in the race. But also, round of applause for our friends from Spain, which all delivered every single heat. There was no mistakes. There was no crashing. It went very well indeed. But they are surprised. They are surprised because they don't know what is happening. Why no blue drones in the air? So we have an amazing score, 9-0 for in-drone team. Something to mention, we also deal with finisher points. Each time a pilot is landing in the finish gate, he actually secures finisher point, which might play a role in the long term. So that's very important to be able to land in the finish gate and secure a finisher point.
Here with Javier live on our stage in Turin, you've just done something very, very rarely ever seen. A whole team winning all of their single heats and winning all top 4 places on the big heat. And you're the wildcard team, and you've done it over Quad Force 1. This is unbelievable. How are your team feeling?
Well, we had a lot of confidence about coming to this race, and we we were talking all these days that we could do it, but I know how these guys can fly. So I was all the time telling them that we can do it, just fly the way you know.
And your pilots were nervous. I was chatting to them before we went live. I was chatting to them when they were here on site for training yesterday. It's a big stage. It's a big event. There are people here and we're on television. It's a big deal for these young pilots. So what did you say to them before that?
I told them that they need to be nervous. It's a natural feeling when if you're not nervous on a race, it's impossible to compete. So you need to have that tension and that good feeling and that power inside you that makes you race or fly the way they did it.
And I think they came into this expecting to probably not beat Quad Force 1. Instead, you're through to the semi-finals. You're going to be racing against Apex, who are your opponents now, as they're confirmed to be going through the semis as well. So more fun to be had.
Yeah, we need to be ready. I mean, we came here to fly 6 races, and that's what we pretend.
6 races means they go all the way to the finals. To do that, they're going to have to beat Apex. But for now, they've beaten Quad Force 1. And I've got Evan Turner from Quad Force 1 here as well. I must be a very disappointed Evan Turner. We know that's not a real representation of what you guys can do, but what happened?
Well, unfortunately, we had some quad issues, technical issues. We simply weren't able to be prepared. We had stock issues with getting our parts in on time. Obviously, we showed that we have the skill as we qualified first on the DCL sim. So it's truly a disappointment to us that we got knocked out because of our equipment. We will be prepared for the next ones and the one after that, and you will not see a team fly harder than us for the rest of the races in this season.
But we do have to race again tomorrow, of course. 7 p.m. Central European time will be live. You'll be in those quarterfinals. Do you have enough to fly?
Well, it's going to be a late night tonight. It's been a late night these last 3 nights. We've built all of our quads here in Italy. So like I said, it's another late night, but we're going to do what we can and come back tomorrow fighting as hard as possible.
How many quads do you think you're reasonably going to have for tomorrow? Is there more stock that you haven't just been able to put together due to time, or have you used everything you've got?
Well, we've used just about everything we have. At this point, we're just going to be trying to make the best of what we have and just see what happens tomorrow as best we can.
Quad Force 1 are out in the quarterfinals. We'll be very excited to see what they can fly tomorrow. Commiserations, Evan, but congratulations again. In-drone team are in the semis. Huge drama there, as you've seen. We've never had that before. A wildcard team come in 8th in qualifying and knock out the number 1 in qualifying and do it in the biggest clean sweep you can possibly do. A 9-0 against Quad Force 1, but clearly that is not the Quad Force 1. That is a real representation of what they can do. We'll move on to quarterfinal number 3, where the Russians have the Japanese to contend with. Our Russian team of Thomas Petersons, Konstantin Kosolopov, Platon Maximov, and Pavel Leshak. They made it to the finals last time. We'll go back to our stage and hear how they're prepared to race in Turin.
On a stage in Italy, Torino, we are really great appreciated and extremely happy to fly this season races with DCL. we want to thanks, great thanks to our families, our fans. Example, our guys always come to races with their families. Platon, Kostya, Pavel, and Thomas. We always bring our families in the crowd, you can see here. So thanks, guys, and we will knock some other guys from this race. Thank you. Спасибо!
Spasiba, Kirill. Ben Mortensen will lead the Japanese. Axel Lenkong is back. We have Tomohiko Koyama and Yasuyuki Harima. They'll complete the lineup for our Japanese team of DMM Raiden Racing. I think Yukatera may be able to tell us more.
Hi. Hi. I'm Yu, DMM Raiden Racing from Japan. So I introduce my pilot. So first one, he is Mario. Yeah, Mario is the best pilot in Indonesia. And the next, Ben. He is from Australia, very good pilot. Yeah. And next one is Sakusha. Sakusha is team captain, and his trademark is very hot. And next one is Man. Yeah, Man is very good pilot from Japan. Thank you. We will do our best this race. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Yukatera and his team of DMM Raiden Racing. And a red light will turn green soon for Platon Maximov, who's going to start things off for Drone Sports Global, and he'll be taking on DMM Raiden Racing's Yasuyuki Harima. So we got some work to do. DMM Raiden Racing, an excellent team. Good showing from them in our 2018 season with a different lineup of pilots. They have brought back Axel Mario Christopher Lenkong, and that young 15-year-old pilot is the best pilot in the whole of Indonesia. You're going to see him in single heat number 4. Before that, Yasuyuki Harima is going to start things off.
Countdown.
And they had a very short showing in lax. Platon Maximov in red for Drone Sports Global, and Harima in the orange of DMM Raiden Racing is behind him for now. Maximov attacked lax. Harima didn't get much racing there as DMM Raiden Racing were out in both quarterfinals, and Harima just brushing, just kissing the top of the River Po there, but he's going to complete the high-time gate now. And as he turns right, he'll have seen Maximov is a good half a lap ahead of him. Maximov will come out of the 170-meter straight and start lap number 2. And time of 26.34 as he passes through the Breitling gate. Starts his way through the top of the Turin Tower and exits through the bottom of it, and he'll split S over I time. Harima is 7.7 seconds behind him and starting lap number 2 now, swinging out wide over the river, clearly not scared about being near the water. And Maximov has got this mostly to himself now. He's got a bigger lead, in fact. Half of that straight lead further again. 10 seconds between the two of them. It is important to finish a race, though. We've had a lot of problems with drones so far this evening, so we've not had a lot of finishes. Finishing a race gets you a finisher point. Finishing your laps in training gets you finisher points as well. Those finisher points are combined for your team, and if you are tied on heat points with another team, it's the finisher points that settles it. And of the teams that go out in the quarterfinals, one of them will be the 5th place team and score 80 points. The other teams who go out in the quarterfinals score nothing. And that team who are 5th and get the 80 points is determined, again, by who got the most finisher points. So they are important to get. That is why Harima, 12.697 seconds behind him, has to get that race finished. That's the first complete race we've seen this evening. That is a finisher point for Drone Sports Global, for DMM Raiden Racing. And the way tonight is going, that might be what ends up settling who comes out of this thing in 5th or wherever they end up being. Finisher points could prove to be very, very vital because we haven't had a lot of finishes.
Yes, we could see Platon had an advantage early on. This is an interesting thing to experience as well, because one of the things to do is to actually play it a little bit safer. There is no point of risking. He had quite a big advantage early on. And that's where teamwork helps, where information from, that's that moment. He barely touched the water. That was so lucky, incredibly lucky. Oh, that was
a little bit of kind of rotor down, really, isn't it? I don't
That
think the
was
drone
so
actually makes
close.
contact. It's just the downdraft from it.
Indeed, that was close.
Well, Platon is in, and 12 and a bit seconds later, Yasuyuki got his finisher point, but the heat point makes it 1-0 for Drone Sports Global. Next up, Konstantin Kosolopov, the best of the Russian championship, second in the championship of Russia that was held in Moscow. KKG is going to take on Tomohiko Koyama, who was second in Japan's drone league last year. Two really good pilots of their home countries. Let's see how they face in Italy. Out of Torino Tower, Koyama makes his split over right time. Kosolopov is behind him, not far behind him, but looking like getting increasingly further behind him. It's nearly 2 seconds, which is a big surprise for just one part of the first lap between these two pilots. Koyama has got speed today. Kosolopov maybe isn't showing us all that his drone can do, because they were very fast in Switzerland. It's 3 laps of this, remember, so plenty of time for Kosolopov to try and close this gap, but it isn't looking like it's closing. We'll find out as we make this pylon turn over our audience here. It's still just over 2 seconds, hasn't really changed. Konstantin Kosolopov's view here as he completes the straights. He won't really see Koyama. Koyama's a little bit too far ahead of making the turn through the tower, but maybe Kosolopov is starting to get this done. That looks like it's closing, though, a bit less than 2 seconds now, as the I-time split SK is all right for both of them, but Kosolopov is on the attack. Around the DCL gate, he's caught up by most of a second, but he doesn't have a lot less to get the other second away, and as he'll head out on the street, Koyama is not so far ahead of him now. Through the Breitling gate, it's less than a second, but it's still quite a lot. The finish is still 0.85. Kosolopov got some work done, but a little too late, left it too late. Good win there for Harima and DMM Racing, even the score. Yeah, congratulations, Tomohiko Koyama. One day I'm going to ask him about that hat. I haven't yet.
There was
but one day I will. But I'm sort of saving it for a special occasion.
There was something very interesting to happen on the takeoff, because we could see that Konstantin couldn't actually push full on. He was losing the time. He was definitely losing on the straights. Could have he actually touched a little bit over the ground on the takeoff? He managed to catch at the end, but unfortunately on the straights he was constantly losing the time.
So I see a lot of our pilots from previous seasons and in previous races are joining us here on Facebook as well. Great to have you with us. Thanks for rejoining us. Some good old friends of the DCL and from the drone racing community. I can see the Campbell family are with us, as always, cheering on their team, but nothing left to cheer for this evening. Sorry to say it. Sean Taylor, welcome to us. Glad to have you with us as well. We're in the air with Leszak and Mortensen, and this is looking like it could be a really tight battle between them. They'll come out of the Torino Tower the first time, and then Leszak will extend it on the second. Split S through I-time is his, and he'll start to pull away. Mortensen, a very, very fast young Australian pilot, but 0.85. There's that number again between these two. Leszak is getting flagged up as maybe having gone on a wrong flight. That's what the WF is for. Maybe he's missed a turn or a gate. That'll get checked by our spotters. And Mortensen is somehow managing to be some way behind him now, but that gap is getting sorted out. It's a confident young Ben who's going to try and chase down Leszak as they come towards the end of the second lap. There's no way he's 5 seconds behind him. Leszak onto lap number 3, and Mortensen 1.25. That's something he can deal with, but he's starting to run out of time for it. He's going to have to aggressively attack that split S, and he does. Very fast right-hand turn out of it to try and close that gap. He's narrow on the pylon on the exit. He's taken a quarter of a second out, but he's got one more to go. The Leszak comes to the end of the straight. DCL, it's the Breitling gate after that, and then a hard right turn. Mortensen's pulling it towards him, but has crashed it. And so has the Leszak. If Mortensen's back in the air and finishes this, he'll get the point. If Leszak is down and staying there, both the goggles up. I think this race is over. Wow. Protest flag in hand for Ben. He crashed. Still flying, and if he'd made it home, he'd get further than Leszak. Leszak's drone hit a light towards the finish. There are a few obstacles on this course that are not obstacles in the normal sense of the word, if you know what I mean.
Let's have a look, indeed. That was very close.
This is the final turn here, so this is Leszak's
turn.
approach. He's gone very low. There's no way he should be that low.
That was unfortunately too low.
But Mortensen was coming in for the attack here. He kind of overshot that turn as he was so aggressively trying to catch him. I think he's hit the lamppost.
There was an element on the ground which he hit, but he already hit the Torino
yeah,
tower.
It's the lamppost and bench which is there. You do not want to slam a drone into that. I think it was that. Oh. There's a light up close.
That's a full stop indeed.
So whichever drone has made it furthest along our track, which is very clearly nearest to the finish in this case, then that is the pilot who's going to get the heat point. That's Leszak's.
We can see the battery is disconnected indeed, so he had no way of actually turtling back and trying to land his finisher point.
Yeah, turtle mode is allowed in the DCL, which is where you spin your drone. If it is upside down on the ground like this, you can spin your rotors to flip it over, and then once it's the right way up, obviously you can disengage turtle mode and try and get it back into the air. But, yeah. That one has no power. Wow, wow, wow.
If I saw correctly, I think Ben, unfortunately, ooh, that was, well, of course, that was very hard to crash. We can see arm broken. We can see a lot of loose parts which should not be loose.
That's actually, so that's Leszak's drone.
Yep.
That's the one that hit the light.
Indeed. That's a firm surface.
Oh, everybody just take a moment. Because if you're a drone pilot, Looks like we've got a smiling face on Pavel, but let's get this absolutely confirmed. Chief Judge Lucas Baumann on stage. You have the results.
So both drones crashed. The red drone from Drone Sports got further, so they win this heat.
It is a point for that man, Leszak, on stage. And eventually a fist bump with the goggle-wearing Thomas Petersens, but it happened. Yeah, he made it further. I think that's not maybe a surprise to Mortensen or indeed anybody else. Mortensen was attacking hard on the exit of the straight and crashed. He's not in there, though, which is the main thing, I think. Yeah, so Leszak will get a second point for Drone Sports Global, and they'll take a 2-1 lead. And that drone hurts, doesn't it, Andre?
Well, I think he has some fixing to do.
The Alaska Drone Racing League have joined us on Facebook. Hello to you. Marcel Gregor, one of our pilots, is pleased for Pavel. I'm sure you are. But here we go, single heat number 4, and this is where we get to see Thomas Petersens, the best of Drone Sports, in qualifying against Axel Mario Christopher Lenkong, the best in the all of Indonesia. That was a beautiful shot. Petersens drone ready to fly, but Lenkong was behind him at the start, but not anymore. And Lenkong will lead the charge. There's a fifth of a second between them, and this is going to be a fast race. Hold on, everybody, because these are two brilliant pilots. Lenkong, Petersens taking different approaches, a beautiful kind of symmetrical approach to the I-turn gate, except Lenkong came out of it cleanly, and Petersens has bounced his. He's in the air, and he's halfway down the straight, and he's flickering badly. That's taken a little bit of damage. Lenkong, meanwhile, is 1.8 seconds ahead of him and exiting the Torino Tower as Petersens goes through some of that. You'll see Lenkong has already completed it and flying away, but don't get confused by that, Petersens. You need to start closing this gap somewhere around here. That gap has almost doubled, though. Lenkong is flying. Petersens may even have messed up one of the turns. And Lenkong completes the start of the Torino Tower. Right 360, left 180, exit of that. A split S demonstrated there for us. And coming around the pylon, he's got this, and his teammates on stage can, of course, tell you, you can hold back a little bit. You don't need to go crazy. He's 3.66 seconds behind you now. Final part of the track, and Lenkong is home, and Petersens is going to get the finishing point, 4 seconds behind him. Lenkong starts his charge on the DCL season for 2019. That young man in the first race of 2018, when we were in the Munich Olympic Park, picked up 5 heat points out of 5 races on the first day he took part. Lenkong can get this done, and he started what he needs to do there. I think Lucas Baumann He's going to add to Thomas Peterson's misery, though, with a yellow card. Yeah, Lucas is going to show Thomas Peterson a yellow card for flying a little bit too high. There it is. There it is, there it is. So 1 yellow card for Thomas. His view of Lenkong, he took the better start of him, but Lenkong caught him before they'd reached the first obstacle, and he's got a tighter turn, really, on the Torino Tower. It's pretty good from both pilots. This, though, is where they attacked the I-time gate in 2 different directions, and it all went horribly wrong from here.
Indeed, he touched the top of the I-time gate, and Axel was not waiting for him, definitely. And not only he wins his heat, but of course he delivers finisher point, which might be useful later this evening.
Two points all after our 4 single heats. So it's winner takes all time in the big heat. Sometimes we get those thrilling encounters where you need a load of points out of them. And this is one of those thrilling encounters where it's winner takes all. Whoever gets to the finish gate first finds that new Red Bull finish gate, which doesn't seem to be the problem that the old one used to be in Lax when it got beating. Whoever gets in the Red Bull finish gate first will take their team to semi-final number 2. Whoever doesn't is going to need those finisher points to distinguish them between the other teams who leave us in the quarterfinals, because the one who's got the most finisher points gets that 80 points in 5th. And that is small consolation when you're either of these teams, but everything counts, doesn't it? So who's got it? Let us know. Facebook, YouTube, whoever you are, wherever you are. Will it be Drone Sports from Russia? Will it be DMM Raiden Racing from Japan? Thank you for all the praise of our race here and how we're bringing it to you. We are thrilled to have you with us wherever you're joining us around the world, and the TV audiences who are with us too. Now, we've got an issue for Konstantin Kosolopov. He doesn't look like he's got a great picture to fly with. Platon Maximov is having a few issues as well, whereas all on the DMM Raiden Racing sign, it is beautifully clear. Like a sunset evening in Turin, you might say. Who's got this then? It's tense, and Konstantin Kosolopov's drone, which is the one that you can see lit up on its block for Drone Sports in red. It's not feeding him any pictures, it's just showing us lights, not him. And that's Platon Maximov, who's getting nothing flyable. I mean, another look. It's better now, a little bit of interference, but that looks like it's worth a go. Drone Sports. DMM Raiden Racing. 7 of them up, and Maximov is up. Oh, and Carlos Kosolopov, who barely had a video picture, has gone straight to the ceiling netting, and one of Drone Sports, I think, is down hard on the ground, not in the river, but down on the concrete. Lenkong has crashed as well. Petersons and Kosolopov are the ones who have wrecked it for the red ones. Leshak is up from on that netting on the end of the pylon turn into the straight. He's done it. It's all with Maximov. Lap number 2, Maximov has the lead. Koyama and Harima are both just about a second and half a second behind him. And Maximov will attack I-time, knowing that there are 2 pilots with him, and his teammates on stage can let him know that this is all in your hands. Platon will lead them away, and he's starting to pull too. Harima is starting to fall behind. Koyama is in this, and looks like he's gained a bit of time towards the end of that straight. I think Maximov may have backed off. Koyama, who won his heat earlier on, is attacking him. Round the Torino Tower, they'll go, and as they exit from that, Maximov is down on the exit of the tower. All of Drone Sports are out. And the disappointment you see on their pilot's face is there, as this is DMM Raiden Racing heading to the semi-finals, and the Russians, who were in the final of our last race, are done for the day. 1 and 2 for DMM Raiden Racing. That is a 4-2 score for them. And Yu Kutera and his guys are thrilled after their disappointment in Switzerland. Went out so early to both of the teams, but they are into the semi-finals. And this is a bit of a revisit, potentially, of the first day of racing of the season when Drone Sports went out in Lax on the first day against X-Blades Racing. First sight we saw of Drone Sports was when they got wiped out by X-Blades, and here they're going to lose to DMM.
So that was very busy. We could see in midair eliminating one of the DMM quads immediately, and now of course it's Platon. Of course he went too low. There is no escaping. I saw his quad power off during the race, so he couldn't even turtle and try to do anything. That was very lucky, actually, very lucky landing in the finisher gate. Sort of a crashing into it, I guess. We can see them happy. We can see Axel is not smiling. He was probably wishing to do more for that heat. But I think he had a midair immediately around the Torino tower, which basically eliminated him from this heat. So we have 2 points for Drone Sports, 4 points from Raiden Racing. Equal amount of finisher points, but it's clear Raiden Racing is advancing to semi-finals. I think that's Pavel's squad, which is being retrieved from the safety netting. I saw something interesting happen as well before. There was a quad which was trying to turtle close to the tower, which was actually moving the water. It's very interesting to see. I'm curious if he actually got into the water or actually managed to pull it out. He was risking a lot trying to turtle there.
So it looks like Drone Sports are going to get that red drone back. We do pretty much get everything back to its pilots, whether it ends up in a net or whether it ends up in a river. But they'll take that drone and they'll take it back to their pit area, and they'll be staying in there for the rest of the day unless they come out and support the other teams, which in fact all of our teams are so brilliant at doing it, cheering each other on, because everybody likes to see good racing. Of course, they would rather be doing it themselves. DMM Raiden Racing take Japan to the semi-finals. They'll face the winner of quarterfinal number 4. It could be our other Asian team, the China Dragons, or it could be the British team of X-Blades Racing. Andre, this is a very dramatic day here. We're getting big results. Teams that we saw great performances from in Lax, not starting to pick up points. To be fair, on Drone Sports, like I said, they had the kind of most varied of days, really. They wiped out in one quarterfinal, and they made it all the way to the final the other day.
Indeed, fantastic performance in Lax. A little less luck today, unfortunately. Let's see what happens tomorrow. I'm pretty sure they will be back strong tomorrow to fight for the win.
Your two-time reigning world champions feature Brett Collis, Gary Kent, Luke Bannister, and new to the DCL, young Killian Rousseau. They make up X-Blades. I think we have Dominic on stage.
Ciao ragazzi, this is Dominic from X-Blades Racing. These are my great pilots, Killian Rousseau, Luke Bannister, Brett Collis, and Gary Kent. We want to thank you the guys, for coming over here to the beautiful Lake Po, and we want to thank also the city of Turin for having us here. It's a very beautiful city, very beautiful country. We are very glad to be here, and we wish you best of fun today.
Thank you, Dominic, on our stage, and X-Blades. Dennis Hockman, Yannick Henschel, Hai Hong Shah, and Ken Inway is back for China Dragons. So a slightly different lineup in orange. I think we have Hai Hong Shah. Oh, it's Ronnie Chow on our stage.
I'm Ronnie Chow, team manager of China Dragons. I'm from Hong Kong, and we are in Turin. Hello, everyone in Turin. Hello, everyone at home watching the live stream. This is our team. We have Dennis Hockman. We have Yannick Henschel, both from Frankfurt, Germany, and they fly together all the time. And they're just fresh off wins in Germany, so they're going to be ready for this race.
Ronnie,
Next, we have Ken Inouye.
Keep going, Ronnie.
Next, we have Ken Inouye from Hong Kong, also fresh off a podium finish in Japan last week. And finally, we have Hom Shah from Shanghai, China. And a little fact about him, he used to be a go-kart and race car driver. So we are ready to take on the next blades, and I hope we have some good racing.
Ronnie, thank you very much for introducing us to your pilots. Some of whom we've seen before here in 2019, some we've seen in 2018. Nice handshake between our captains. Of course, the X-Blades racing pilots we know well, but we've got new faces on each team. And yeah, it's a big step up when you're racing alongside incredible pilots like this. So we will start off with Hai-Hong Shah and Gary Kent. There's Gary for X-Blades. Just as FPV, so far he's got 4 out of 5 single heat wins to his name in 2019 season. Hai-Hong Shah hasn't raced in as many races because China Dragons haven't raced in as many races. Here comes the first one. And Gary is away. Shah slightly behind him in the Torino Tower. We'll see that there's really very little between them at all. But Shah has smashed that quad into the bottom of the top of the tower. And Gary Kent will give us a look at the setting sun and the beautiful sky of Turin at just after 9:30 here. In you go. Shah. That one hurt.
It's interesting to see Gary is absolutely calm, even after raising his goggles. He's very experienced, of course. So we've seen what happened. Indeed, Gary went through, and Hom unfortunately hit that railing. That's a full stop. There is no escaping from this one. Even if he would maintain the power, it's unlikely that he would be able to actually properly race further, possibly bend props.
Well, we asked Gary and all of our pilots, various things to try and get to know them better. And you ask Gary, how does he deal with stress? You know what his answer is? What stress? This is for fun. His exact words. What stress? This is for fun. So I've seen him stressed, to be fair, but he's a point up right now. Ken Inouye returns. He raced with us in the 2018 season. Brett Collis returns. We know him and his successful winning poses as he's done them many times, and he's 0.4 of a second ahead of Inouye, and Inouye is coming out of the Torino Tower, not far away from him. Brett will take the I-time gate first. Inouye still in this, and around the pylon they'll turn. I think that 0.4 of a second is maybe extended a little bit more than that timer actually suggests. Collis is onto his second lap. Inouye is not a great deal behind him. It's second now. As the sun sets, you can see it's getting a little bit darker here, and we're lighting up the sky. Inouye has hit the Torino Tower as well. That is causing problems for China Dragons. It's a different place from where it was for Hai-Hong Shah earlier. He's hit the bottom of the entry after you do the 360 turn, whereas Inouye had almost finished it. But he's out. His picture's gone. That drone is dead, and Collis is home, making it 2-0 for X-Blades. It's feeling a little bit like business as usual for X-Blades. It's feeling a little bit like China Dragons have got more than they can do today.
Yes, we could see Ken trying to close multiple times on Brett, and he was actually getting close, but each time he was making quite a rapid adjustment, and he was in the end losing a little bit more than trying to gain, and of course that crash didn't help at all.
A lot of support for X-Blades in the chat, as you'd expect. Such a popular team. They race in so many things around the world, and well known, and if you've ever been watching the DCL, you will have seen them pretty much doing well pretty much all the time.
You can see again, there was a little bit of warble, and he hit it multiple times, unfortunately, so there was no escaping. There was no recovery possible.
That's unfortunate. Brett will take 2, and you're looking at Luke Bannister. And now you're looking at Yannick Henschel, who's joining us for China Dragons. He was an MotoGP Global qualifier. He was ranked 1 in Germany. He was ranked 3 in the world. Stickman is how you might know him. He's here from Germany for China Dragons. So,
10 seconds.
Bannister and Henschel. from Torino here in Italy with Bannister and Henschel. And Henschel has just smashed it into that Breitling gate. The first obstacle really hard and really low, but square on, which means he's recovered it. And he's still in the air, although it is sounding pretty rough. Bannister is already onto the straight and 6-something seconds ahead of Henschel. And that is sounding pretty unhealthy. As you can see, Bannister has definitely got the lead here. Something's gone wrong with Henschel's drone, which is confusing our timekeeping system, I think, because Bannister is well away and ahead now. And in fact, Henschel, more issues for him. His picture's gone. He's going to try and recover it, but Bannister is going to bring this home now. He'll make this Breitling gate, and he's going to keep going around the Torino Tower, getting a good view of how difficult it is. It's fast, but then again, so is Luke Bannister. He's going to get all 3 laps in here. If you are told by our chief judge and the team, as he has been now, that you can just bring it home, yes, of course you do get the finisher point for doing that. He's going to do a little bit of a slower entry in. Didn't want to mess it up, wanted to do a little flip into the gate. Yes, of course you did, Luke. Of course you did. 3 for X-Blades. It's not feeling like China Dragon's day. That was a very, very early crash.
We could also see the impact. Clearly, his drone was not handling as well as it should post the impact. Possibly bent props or something. Let's have a look. Oh yeah, the bottom of the Breitling gate.
So this is after he's recovered it.
We can see it's not really handling well.
Yeah, and then a bit of a failsafe or something up there.
10 seconds countdown.
We'll go to our single heats number 4. It's our first time to see Kylian Rousseau in blue. And away he goes with Dennis Hochman in orange for China Dragons. Kylian Rousseau, this young 14-year-old pilot from France who's making his first appearance with the DCL and the first appearance here with X-Blades. And he's got a decent 1.5 second lead over Dennis Hochman, who was quick in lax. So their racing there was over very, very soon, as it's looking like it's going to be tonight as well. So they didn't get a lot of races in. They lost to Quad Force 1, they lost to the McDonald's wildcard team. Here, Kylian is some way ahead now of Dennis. Nearly 3 seconds. That's an interesting flying position that Dennis is using. Rousseau will take us through the tower once, cleanly twice. It's caused such a problem for all of these orange China Dragon drones. Of course, they've played it in game on our simulator. They've played it here in training. If you'd like to have a go, then you should download DCL the game. It's free to play, early access on Steam and Mac. And when the tracks are added to the game, you'll get to try and fly around that tower yourself, just like Rousseau has done, who has comfortably beaten Hochman here. Finish a point for them, but they haven't picked up many of them so far. A disappointed face, as you would understand, from Dennis Hochman there. Best in qualifying for his team, but beaten cleanly by Kylian Rousseau. It's a 4-0 position. Are we going to get another 9-0 this evening?
Very clean lines. I had an opportunity to race against Kylian, and he's a fantastic pilot, very committed and lots of talent. So that's a very good debut for him. That's his very first competitive heat in DCL. Excellent debut.
So.
Oh yeah.
The bug is showing it. The score bug is giving it away right now. You want me to mention it? 'Cause it's on screen. Okay. So we're spinning up and getting ready and armed for big heat time. And as we mentioned earlier on, you can pick up a lot of points in a big heat if you come in first and second and third and fourth consecutively. But you used to only get 4 points for doing that. I say only. That was, you know, a huge amount of points to score. You used to only get 4 because you now get 5. It used to be 4, and then if you were tied on heat points, you would look at the finisher points to see who would go through. If China Dragons collect all 5 heat points from this, sorry, all 4 top places from this, they will get 5 heat points. Now, a little bit more drama to try and hold back China Dragons. I was just saying they need to come in first, second, third, and fourth. For that, they'll get 5 points. But what you're about to see here, Dennis Hockman of the China Dragons is getting a yellow card. Dennis Hockman gets a yellow card for flying too high, and it's his second one, because you can get them in training as well. It's his second yellow card, which makes a red, which means he cannot race in this big heat. And with only 3 pilots taking part in it, you can't get all top 4 positions. So we're going to see here what China Dragons can do when they don't have anything to lose, but also when they don't want to break these quads anymore because they're going to need them tomorrow. They really do need to get their season happening. So we'll bring you this big heat, but we already know, semi-finalists.
10 seconds countdown.
And that is really, really disappointing for Dennis. He's going to be kicking himself for that all evening. Up front, as we've seen time and time again, it is looking like it's Blue and X-Blades. It looks like Gary Kent is leading the way for his team. But he does have Henschel not far behind him. Yannick Henschel making his appearance here for China Dragons would like to make it memorable in more ways than one as he's leading X-Blades out of Turin town through the bottom of it. He had trouble there earlier, but he's got it now, and he's got the lead of these clips. Oh, no! On the exit of the I-time gate, he's hit part of the gate, and he is spun into the netting. And I think there are some children in the audience trying to claim that drone for him. Gary Kent has got a problem and is looking like he's out of this. He's got an entirely grey picture. Not the colour bars, it's all grey. Dominic Wade's protest flag for him. It's pretty much immaterial, really. China Dragons cannot win this big heat. They simply didn't have enough pilots in the air to start with, and 2 of them have had trouble since then. Ken Inouye may have already finished in a brilliant time. Brett Collis, Killian Rousseau will come home. Gary Kent's drone is wherever it is on the track. He can't see anything from that. Bannister has issues, but I think we can put that big heat to bed.
I think every pilot watching this knows exactly what it means. This is a broken camera on the drone. We can still see the OSD information from Gary, but unfortunately no picture.
So it is X-Blades Racing who are our last semi-finalists for the first day in Italy.
That was quite some start. There was a collision from Killian, I believe, who had to try to catch up, but it's extremely. I think we had a quad going down to the water. Unfortunately, one of the blue drones escaped. This is home. Oh, unfortunately, Lamp claimed his drone. That looked like Gary indeed lost control, and the broken camera was just a result of that crash which happened. But it looked like a typical failsafe where he's losing the ability to actually pilot his drone. It's just drifting. It's a safety feature as well. When it happens, when the link between the radio and the receiver flight controller is broken, it's a safety feature. Such quad basically goes down.
we want to try again? We should try again. I think I've got Brett Collis now here at our stage. We'll go back to business as usual. X-Blades Racing go through to the semi-finals. Prep for this has been good.
Yeah, prep for this is good. Our quad's flying good. Kind of getting tuned into the course. I think we set some good practice times. Also, we don't have qualification here. That was on the sim. But yeah, going well so far. So yeah, on to the semi-finals.
You've raced in all of our seasons. We've seen you many times. Pilot of the Year in the past as well. And you've had a lot of teammates along the way as well. Tell us a little bit about Killian. He's new here.
He's fast. Very fast. Yeah, he's good. Good team player. Kind of really prepped with the quads well. So yeah, he saw that as well. Kind of we finished, I think, 1-2 in that race. Kind of working for the team, so it worked well. Yeah, continues to go. Can't wait to see him go get some 1v1s against some really fast pilots.
Are you learning some stuff from him? You say you can't wait to see him go. Is that because he's ahead of you, Brett?
You never know. There's always something to learn in drone racing. There's always someone faster than you. If you say you're the fastest, you're wrong, most likely.
That's a very honest answer from a pilot who doesn't know what he's talking about. We're going to see X-Blades in the semi-finals. Congratulations, Brett. So our quarterfinals are finished, but the drama and the decisions may not entirely be as we saw earlier on. We'll go to our stage, where Chief Judge Lucas Baumann, who's given out a few cards this evening, has another decision that we need to know.
We have an update on the quarterfinal 3. The pilot in seat number 7 got disqualified in his single heat and big heat for exceeding the power limit. So the final score is Drone Sports 3 and DMM Raiden Racing 2.
So we were celebrating how the Japanese team of DMM Raiden Racing were progressing to the semi-finals over Drone Sports Global, but that 3-2 win, Tomohiko Koyama, I think it is, has been found to be using too much power in his drone. We have a limit into that, into how much power you can draw. Because of that, he's been disqualified, and because of that, Drone Sports have got the point instead, which makes it 3-2 for them, which means they are now into the semi-finals instead of DMM Raiden Racing. So near! But it's taken away from them as they were outside of our regulations. That is going to really, really hurt the Japanese.
Indeed, but if he was above the limit, it also gave him an advantage. So,
So Drone Sports Global will be in our semi-finals taking on X-Blades Racing. But semi-final number 1 is one that I don't think many people expected, because it was probably the favorite for many people would have been Veloce against Quad Force 1. They looked like the likely candidates after Veloce won our last race, and Quad Force 1 are such a great experienced team who were runners-up in the World Championship last year, but they both fell. The Danish team of Apex Racing will lead things out in semi-final number 1. The wild card team of the Spaniards of InDrone team. We'll see if they can do what the McDonald's wild card team did in Switzerland and stop them here. Apex and InDrone will come up later. X-Blades and Drone Sports after that. Don't go far. We have incredible racing coming to you live here from Italy. 10 seconds to go before Collis takes on Mortensen. And as usual, Collis is the slightly slower of the two starts because he doesn't tend to be first out of the blocks. However, he is first through the first gate and away, and Mortensen's going to have to catch him up now because Collis has passed him, and as they head towards the Breitling gate, Mortensen takes him before he reaches it and is ahead of him on the exit. They'll come to the other side of the half-pipe, but it's Collis back in the lead. Collis will take the second DCL gate and the Zurich Switzerland gate very quickly. Mortensen's got a lot of speed, but he's got extremely wide. A very round route for him there, but through the Stayat gate he'll come. Collis still got the lead through one side of McDonald's. Mortensen not far behind him now. Not much in this. We're in the middle of our second lap. There's the Breitling gate. It's a little bit more hesitant for Mortensen. He might gift it away to Collis now, who's almost a second ahead of him. To the Zurich Switzerland gate, Brett flies. Will come towards the pylons. Mortensen still about a second behind him, I think. Collis comes down to ride time and is not home! And neither is Mortensen! And the camera folks come out for everybody here in Lax if they weren't already. And now that is a really difficult challenge because I don't think either of those drones are in the Red Bull crash gate, and in is where you need to be. He's got his goggles on, and he's looking ready. Going, Peterson's out of the block and almost into a mid-air between them as their paths converged. But there's a fifth of a second between them after the pylons are finished. And the McDonald's gate go heading very low down, and Peterson's has carried a lot of speed and closed that gap up. Still nearly a 3/10 of a second, but you saw that gap close. And then extend away again, and go extends it again. The speed he's got there towards the pylons is brilliant. He'll bring that around past the I-time gate, and Peterson's has got a second lap in which to try and catch him now. Go towards the Breitling gate and the new turn that they've all been doing today. That is clean from both of them. Half a second between them. Peterson's is getting more aggressive. You can see him attack. Let DCL close their gate as he wanted to close that gap, but it looks like it may have backfired for him as he is not in the picture anymore. Go, makes it. When he makes it, 3. Peterson's is coming in now. The finishes are getting quick. The pilots are getting gripped with this Red Bull crash gate. Dennis Hochman in his seat, ready to fly for China Dragons. And today they both go. Pretty evens on the start. Isla had the lead, it seemed, around the pylons. Hochman in front of him. Isla's getting in trouble with the Stayat gate entry, and Hochman starts to pull away. Breitling gate next to the half pipe is currently Hochman's, but he's under review. WF for wrong flight. That means he may have missed a gate or gone outside of track limits. That'll get investigated later on. But first, let's see who wins this race and whether Isla bags the point anyway. Currently, he's in the lead, 25.22, and Hochman 1 second behind him as they start the second lap. Isla swinging a little bit wildly there. Hochman still behind him. McDonald's gate is fine. The Breitling gate entry is a little bit slower. Isla is still in the lead. Hochman hasn't even made that Breitling turn yet. As you see, he'll now come over the gates, over the pipe. Isla is a long way ahead. He's finished his second lap. He'll complete the pylons in the I-time turn. It doesn't matter if Hochman went out of the course, or does it? Because Isla hasn't finished. He's down on the snow after hitting the crash gate and crashing. Hochman's still in the air. Hochman's in the crash gate first. That is unbelievable. That's his view, hanging inside the crash gate. And Isla is furious. Live to you from Turin in Italy, as it is nighttime and 10 p.m. here. You're joining us live for the semi-finals of our first race here. Apex Racing will take on In-Drone Team, our wildcard team, after drama in both of the first two quarterfinals, which saw Apex progress and knock out Veloce, and In-Drone Team knock out Quad Force 1 in a huge 9-0. To give them their dues, being Quad Force 1, we've got to say that's down to technical errors more than pilot errors, but nevertheless, they're out of the competition. So, semi-final 1 awaits us with the Danes. Great showing from them earlier on. They needed that. Now they are back again for semi-finals, and they'll be full of confidence having knocked out Veloce. It is Apex Racing! And I say full of confidence, but we do have to wonder whether that man at the end, as we get to Timothy Trowbridge, is feeling better, because he's getting a second chance now. They were out of this. They got it in and they made it to the semi-finals. Now they've got this wildcard team to contend with, who must be full of confidence for a different reason. They didn't, well, I say they didn't expect to be here. Realistically, from chatting to the pilots, it seemed like they didn't. And yet their team owner, Javier, was saying earlier on, yeah, we want to win all 6 races. So Javier, if you want to win 6 races this weekend, you've got to beat Apex now. How are you going to do it?
Well, one by one. We're going to race these 4 or 5 races and then try to be on the finals.
Thank you, Javier. It's Apex, and it's a team that I didn't expect to face. Let's be honest. They probably thought when the qualifying results come out, you can work out how the bracket is going to go. You know that first is going to race 8th, and if you're 4th, Apex, you're going to race 5th, Veloce. So you know you're going to race the team who are first ranked in the semi-finals. Should you get there, you know that that's Quad Force 1 or In-Drone Team. I wager they didn't expect In-Drone Team. That's no, as I say, detriment to these Spanish pilots at all. They were taking on the runners-up in the World Championship, who were a long way ahead of them in qualifying. But Apex get In-Drone Team instead. Now, what can we see from the brilliant Temple Clause? Timothy Trowbridge. He's got some picture, but if you see it during the race, it's not great. Marc Roman is his opponent, and he's got a lovely view of Torino. Up we go, Trowbridge with a better start of the picture he's got. You can see a green light out of it, but Roman has already passed him, and before they go into the tower, looks like Trowbridge nearly passed him before they'd exited it. He's got him now on the I-time gate, and this is very close. Here's Trowbridge's video. It's not bad compared to what he's been flying with, and to be honest, it's a miracle compared to what he's been flying with. And he's got a 1/3 of a second lead over Roman, who is zipping behind on the exit of the straights. And as the audience come down and join us here in Turin, it's now a second between them. Timothy Trowbridge is back. Support in the chat for him. I see Roman has gone out of this, and Trowbridge will carry on. I think Roman is looking like he doesn't take the goggles off. Javier will hand in the protest flag, so he doesn't have to look for it. Trowbridge has gone through the brightening gates on the start of his next lap, but is being told that's over. He's bringing that into the crash gate. We'll see him go in there. Oh, he needs to roll it. Okay, he wants to roll it. Maybe a slightly protected move, maybe just for show, but I don't mind either way. 1-0 for Apex. Will that stand? Marc Roman, I think, we'll find out for sure if that protest actually gets lodged.
It was very close straight from the beginning. Quite a battle immediately.
Look at that. Side by side, or one above the other on the exit.
Yeah, absolutely. He lost everything, I'm afraid.
Now that may even have been over water.
Could be indeed.
He didn't have a lot of forward momentum at the time. I'm not sure that was gonna. If it was more than just the video, I'm not sure that made it to land.
It's one of those situations where there is a lot of momentum, and actually, if there is a lipo ejection or something like it, which would kill the quad, that's one of the possible scenarios there.
I see Longcat FPV is joining us on YouTube. Says he dreams to be flying DCL someday. Well. Keep flying, keep taking part, keep racing, keep sharing your content, keep getting yourselves known. Maybe you get picked up to be a wildcard team. That's how these guys have done. That's Noah Koch's drone. And it is behind. Sala's out of the block, but not much in it there. Torino Tower helps us light up Torino sky, and Koch has a lead, yes, around the pylon, but there's not much in it now. Sala dipping very close to the net. We do have a height limit there that they have to keep underneath. Sala may have even passed him before they got to the end of it. Two very different routes out, and Sala's hit the ground, I think, on the start of lap number 2 after the DCL gate, but I don't think he got as far as the Breitling one. Koch leads a second point home for Apex. And this must be feeling very, very different to Switzerland for them now. And I don't just mean in terms of the degrees being above 0, considerably above 0. It's warm here.
I was expecting to see some of that on that long straight, the longest straight DCL had. There is quite some consideration to power management after going for 170 meters straight on, full throttle. Exactly. That's quite easy to lose control after depleting whatever is possible from the battery to just go as fast as possible straight. And that could be lethal, as we can see.
I see Apex are attracting a few gamer fans as well from their team and from elsewhere. I'm seeing Apex are legends. Timmy, get the chicken dinner. I know where you're at. I know my games and my esports. If you follow anything else I do, you know I work a lot in that as well. I see where you're getting your support from Apex.
Countdown.
Well, Dane Grace will take on Mikel Garriga Sanchez. And our camera drone will follow the two of them away, but Grace has got something bad to fly with there. And yet somehow he's managed to keep that through the Torino Tower. Once and twice, but down hard after hitting something afterwards. And you saw what he was flying with. It's amazing he made that tower at all. That was pretty remarkable, actually. Miguel Garriga Sanchez still in the air. DCL gate, Breitling gate. It's not a terrific picture for him, as you can tell. There's the finish gate and home. Looking like a point being brought back, but a protest flag getting waved. Drones get recovered, didn't roll into the water. I'm sure you have, Andre, as well. I've seen drones come down, and if they land in a certain sort of orientation, they can roll and cartwheel and plop.
Yeah, indeed.
Happened in Munich.
Indeed. He got quite lucky. I think Dane got quite lucky indeed. He crashed right by the water. So whatever was the issue with video, and we can see that there definitely was an issue. Is it the quad? That's something to settle, obviously. That's why he's protesting.
So is that gonna stand?
The difficulty now is definitely to determine if the issue was caused by quad itself or the equipment used on the track.
Yeah, the protest isn't going, I don't think it's even getting actually officially handed in. It's certainly not getting a rerun, so it's going to stay 2-1 for Apex. That is Eric Holden, that is Marcel Isha Begal, and they are the best in terms of qualifying times for their teams. Holdox against Sea Sky. Holdox with fractionally better starts. And remaining there and extending it a little bit towards I-time. They'll come reasonably fast, but not the fastest time we've seen on split S turns there. Half second between them, but that is not hanging around. This is the exit of the straight. Much closer together at that side, which would suggest that there's a little bit of a straight line speed difference between these two drones. It's now in the hands of Begal, who is leading away. And if that is straight line speed in his favor, then he is gonna go now. Holden's keeping with him. If anything, Holden is catching him. Maybe he's flying that straight away a little bit more aggressive than last time. We're on to the third lap now, and there's not much in it between these pilots. This may be the best race we've had today. Out of the tunnel, they'll both come. And Bergel has hit the exit of the ice-time gate, spun it lights out onto the ground. That is such a shame. Such a shame for C-Sky, the young 15-year-old pilot. Eric Holden was at a real scrap on his hands. I wanted to see that one go all the way to the finish. Holden will get there. And that makes it 3-1 for Apex, but ooh, there was a fight on our hands. And he looks pleased to get that point. Any pilot is, of course, pleased to get any point, but I think he knew that one was one he was going to have to fight for all the way.
That was a great battle, absolutely great battle. Exchanging positions. That tower seems to be, Torino Tower seems to be crucial for some pilots to either lose or win some time, as we can see. All depends on that race line. That was so close, fantastic.
We've seen a few red flags. I see people asking in our chat. Thank you for joining us wherever you are, on YouTube, Facebook, or on TV, wherever you are. I see people going, what's the red flags about? Well, if a pilot thinks that they have a reason within our rules to ask for a rerun, then they wave the red flag. Then their team manager will arrange with them what they are protesting about. Then they write it on a form and they hand it in, and you can't do that willy-nilly. There are penalties for handing in protests without serious reasons behind them, so they are important to only do when you think it's right. And an example would be that you think you've had video drop out of your drone and you couldn't see where you were flying, and you think it's not related to your quad, you think it's related to the track. If it is track related, you do get a rerun. If it is because of something with your quad, then you don't. That's just one example of what they're for, and we are seeing a few this evening. What we're seeing now is Apex with a grand final in their sights, and that is massive for them because all they have picked up in the two races we've done earlier this year is 80 points on day one and 80 points on day two. Both of them for going out of the quarterfinals, for being the best of the teams who did, and picking up the 80 points you get for fifth. They have 160 from that. If they win this, they will pick up a minimum of 220 points just today. They will score more for being in today's grand final than they have accumulated in the season so far. In Drone Team, of course, they have no points for the season as this is their first race with us, and they'll only be taking part today and tomorrow here in Turin, so they don't have a world championship to fight for, whereas Apex Racing, very calm, confident Danish, Nordic, Swiss team, all the guys from all these different countries, Sweden as well. They want to win a championship. Away we go into the big heat. And that is the sight of a lot of drones lighting up the Turin sky. One is in the water, though. Noah Koch, we think, is swimming right now, but up front, Sala is doing some work for in-drone team. Now they have to get, if none of the reruns and protests earlier on are granted, they have to get two up front. They have to at least get 2 points here. And to be honest, even if any of the reruns and things do happen, you need to come down to this with 2 points to have a chance of fighting some other things. So, Sala is where he needs to be, or is he? Holden's past him, Grace and Trowbridge have all passed him. Sala has lost a lot of time, and it is all white, and then all green. Sanchez is way behind the rest of the pack. They don't need all four of them up front, but they do need Sala, Miguel, or Roman to start passing Holden, Grace, and Trowbridge. Round the pylon turn, Holden stays in the lead. We're on board with Sala, who's doing the best of the work for the Greens. He's passed Trowbridge. I think he may have passed Dane Grace as well. Holden is coming up towards the finish gate now. He'll take it one. Second is missed. Sala is in. Grace missed the finish. You can see him in the netting. He went too high. Maybe he felt he was going too low and put a little bit too much throttle in. He's missed it. Sala is in second. Trowbridge comes third, and Sanchez a long way behind him fourth. Now, I believe there's still possible rerun on the cards from an earlier heat. But that is not looking like it could change the results. As I was saying, if in-drone team picked up two there, then the 1 point available from a rerun single heat would still work. But there's too many points in it, so the rerun isn't going to matter. Apex are into the grand finals. Congratulations to Apex. We'll see them in the grand final. And in-drone team, our wildcards will leave us here, but a great performance from them anyway.
Such a close race. Torino Tower always taking toll. This is the place to win a lot of time, definitely. This is also the best part of racing. Individual heats are fantastic, but there is no better joy than to take on 4 opponents from the other team and join 3 teammates and try. Oh, of course, he missed. He missed the finisher gate, unfortunately, a little bit. And I think we did have a drone to go into the water immediately after start. There was a little crash by Noah, I believe.
Here on stage with Apex Racing, Timothy just said to me, good to see you again. It's good to see you again. We haven't done a winner's interview for a while.
Yeah, it's been a tough first start in logs, but now we're back on track and in the finals, so we're super happy.
Brilliant result for you guys. We're going to see you in the grand finals shortly. And yes, you're right to mention Lax, because back in Switzerland, a place I know you know well. Very disappointing races for you there. Here, you aren't without your issues, though. Lots of technical problems for you in particular.
Yeah, we practiced the whole week, checked all quads, made sure we're so sharp, so we're ready to beat X-Blades.
They're expecting X-Blades. Okay, that's the story in itself. But you have, and what I'm talking about is the technical problems you've had. You've had a lot of video issues from your drone. We saw looking a bit disappointed in the quarterfinals, like you were thinking it wasn't your day and you weren't going to make it to the semis. Is a lot of those technical issues passed now?
Yeah, I think we're all good now with technical issues and ready to race.
We're going to see them in the grand finals. All of Apex Racing have turned up today. Good luck. Brilliant result for Apex Racing. We'll see more of the wildcard team tomorrow, but semi-final 2 will determine who they race. Apex are expecting it to be the Brits, but the Russians, who are now in there after that dramatic thing earlier on that we had in the quarterfinal where one of DMM Raiden Racing's pilots was found to have drawn too much power from his battery. I will explain that a little bit more for you. But Drone Sports Global get the point after a point that DMM Raiden Racing was overturned due to that power issue. That puts the Russians into this semi-final, and the Brits are coming to face them. So, Brett Collis, who we talked to earlier on and is enjoying his racing and reckons X-Blades are here as they were in 2018. With his teammates alongside them, they've got a buoyant and difficult opponent to race. X-Blades on our stage. I think we will talk to Richard, the team owner of X-Blades. Welcome to Torino, Richard. I'm sure this is a place that a fashionable, stylish man like yourself loves to be in Italy. How is the season shaping up for you? How are you expecting it to go for X-Blades?
Well, it's going really well. I'm really proud to be here with an amazing team, especially Dominic Roch, one of the best team managers in the world, and a great lineup of pilots. Of course, we've got Darkett's Kylian Rousseau with us. Young new talent who's going to blow the scene away. Luke Bannister, legendary guy, many, many wins. Brett Collis, one of the most dominating pilots in DCL. And of course, the legend himself, Justice FPV.
There he is, looking calm
as always. It's a real
always.
pleasure to be here. DCL have put on an amazing show. It looks spectacular. Fantastic spectators enjoying the race. And yeah, bring it on.
So we will bring it on. Thank you, Richard. The team who are going to bring it on then. No easy opponents. The Russians are coming. And they weren't. They are going to have to shake off whatever kind of sad feeling they were maybe had of like we're out to DMM Raiden Racing because they've been given that point and they're going to come here. So I think on our stage we might have Nikolai. No, we've got Kirill. Kirill, welcome back to the stage. You're in the semi-finals. You must have been so disappointed to be out in the quarters. Can you talk us through what has happened with your pilots when you learned you are now actually in the semi-finals? How have you shaken off what you were feeling and got ready now?
it's so nervous for us, for our team, to be here. So we already was thinking about packing our stuff and go to the hotel, preparing for to tomorrow's race. And then someone from Quad Force 1 come to me and shake me, and you are in the semifinals. They was above 2,000 power limits, and I think, oh, so we was kick someone's.
Ah,
tonight.
we're going to be doing that again. Well, good luck, Kirill. You have the reigning world champions to face. He's really up for that kicking. Well, yeah, there you heard it. They were miserable and packing their bags and leaving the pit area. And instead, you got a fight on your hands, and they've been in a final before. So just quickly, because we have a great race ahead of us, just quickly, we measure the power drawn by pilots from their batteries, and we have a limit on what that is. We do that via logs after the race. You can't do it during a race. We do it reliably and correctly after a race. Too much power found to have been used in single heat number 2 by Tomohiko Koyama of Raiden Racing meant the point that he got there got handed over to Konstantin Kosolopov, and that's why they've got 3-2 instead. That's why they're here. And in front of Gary Kent is one of their pilots. Platon Maximov is away. Kent a little way behind him, not much of it, but we know that these drones of X-Blades are very, very fast. Of course, all of our drones can go up to a speed of something like 140 kilometers an hour in the right conditions, in the right track. We know how fast they are, but everybody's drones are a bit different too. We are on board with Gary Kent, who's flying his very fast one against a very aggressive Maximov. Where did he go? That is a very aggressive Gary Kent. Says he flies just for fun and doesn't feel stressed. He would like to leave Maximov behind now and win this one just for fun and more so for his team. Half a second between them. Gary is using this drone brilliantly and is starting to move away. We're on board with Maximov, who's got lights everywhere. One of them, though, is a blue X-Blades Racing drone, and he is pulling away. That gap now to 4/5 of a second ahead over the tunnel where our audience, some of the audience who are joining us here, there are some up on the walls overlooking the higher sections, some in the tunnel underneath, but they are about to see Gary Kent go home, and Maximov dares to be very close to that water. The finisher point won't go to Platon Maximov. His drone has crashed right at the end, but it nearly took a bath as well. An aggressive finish, I think, trying to close that gap on Gary. Can't blame him for trying. Platon Maximov is out of that one, and Gary Kent starts the lead of X-Blades Racing. Ooh.
That was so close.
you need to say thank you to the advertisers there for that advertising board being there.
Extremely lucky. That banner saved him, basically.
Yeah, it wasn't the thing that stopped him first. He came into that after the clip he already had. Well, a semi-final that they weren't even expecting to be in up until a few minutes ago, but they're here. And they'll want to get to another final. They came in runners-up in our last race in Lax, and that was against Veloce. Veloce aren't going to be getting those final points today. And for X-Blades Racing, it's even tastier because, you know, your biggest opponent from last year was Quad Force 1. They are done. They are out of this. They got wiped out in the quarterfinals. Loads of tech problems.
10 seconds countdown.
They're out. Veloce Racing, who are tied with you for the lead of the season, they're out. Let's see what Brett Collis in blue can do with Konstantin Kosolopov in red, and a quarter of a second between him. And Kosolopov had some issues earlier on. And neither of these pilots have got brilliant footage, but actually Kolosolopov's is better. Brett is in all kinds of trouble and is in a net. Yeah, Brett's finished. Kosolopov's on the straight. Goggles up, glasses on. For Brett, who seems to be shrugging that one off like he's going to just take responsibility for that one, and that's racing. What did you see, Andre? We'll dig back into that again and see what it was that happened with Brett, which means that Drone Sports have equalized the score.
Let's have a look. That's the bottom of the I-time gate. Unfortunately, an unlucky finish. This is safety, obviously, but touching that net with quadcopter means that the blades are immediately tangled into it, and there is almost no chances of being able to continue. There's no turtling out of this one.
So a point for Kosolopov. And Brett Collis, that's an unusual mistake for him.
I guess.
It's a tricky turn, split S. Over the top, invert it, and then pull it back through. And you have to split S the I-time gate as well.
He's an experienced pilot, and it will be interesting to know what happened exactly. Was it just a manual mistake, or there was something more in play?
So it's 1-1. Now, a pilot who likes a split S is that man on the left, liking his shades as well. Luke Bannister is going to step up for single heat number 3. I don't think the shades are in there, though. Paweł Leszak, young 16-year-old Polish pilot. Pawelos, FPV, oh.
That video is not looking too good. It's actually not looking at all, I'm afraid. Hopefully he has a spare drone which can be used instead.
A lot of support for X-Blades. I'm enjoying what we're getting in our YouTube chats. I'm enjoying the Stig takes on Gary and Brett. That's in there. The gate jumped out at Brett. Well, I think that may be kind. Now we've got big drama on our stage because we just saw Konstantin Kosolopov and Brett Collis, and after Brett hit that I-time gate on the split S and crashed, Kosolopov was given the point, but that is a yellow. And behind it, because he's already picked up one from training earlier, he's been given a red. So that, I believe, will mean the point he's won is gonna be taken back. So he won a point in the single heat after Brett crashed, so that point is still going to stand, which is why it is 1-1. But Konstantin Kosolopov will not be allowed to race in the big heat at the end of this series. The red card that he's got from getting the 2 yellows means he's disqualified from the next heat, which is the next heat he's going to race in, which is the big one. We'll concentrate here on Luke Bannister and Paweł Leszak. Away we go. Bannister and Leszak, blue and red. And Bannister, of course, world champion through X-Blades Racing, world champion in his own right as an individual pilot too. Took a little bit of time out of racing, finishing his studies, came back still good. Gave us some good racing in lax too. Min-Chan Kim got the better of him. Here, Bannister is most of 2 seconds ahead of Leszak, who's a very good pilot for drone sports. And as we come around the middle point of the second lap, Leszak is a long way behind now. It's nearly 3. I did see him with a lot of speed in lax. That drone, the design of the red ones for drone sports, they can pull a lot of speed very quickly. The acceleration on it is very, very good. Or at least the way they were flying it in lax worked for them. But here, acceleration is not going to be enough for him. He's going to need a lot more speed, and he's going to need it very, very soon because he is slipping even further behind by another half a second. Bannister has got this in the bag, mishaps notwithstanding. He's already made the final turns. Home he is in a time of 1:05. And we'll keep Kirill hanging a little.
This is one of those cases where the voltage indication on Paweł's drone is actually telling quite a bit of story. We could tell that he had a low voltage alarm very early on. Was it a dead cell in his battery? Hard to say, but his voltage was dropping, and I could tell he was not able to push. So maybe not all voltage was, not amperage was supplied to his powertrain. And in the end, he basically, instead of dropping it on the netting, he actually landed it in the middle.
Pilot number 3.
I think you're hearing it.
For you. Way too high, okay?
Luke Bannister went too high, beyond limits. Not beyond maximum limits, but beyond our first safety limits. He's getting a yellow card for that, and he hasn't already got any to his name, which is why he's not getting a red. Because if 2 yellows make a red, which is what happened with Kosolopov, but he had already picked up a yellow from training. Safety extremely important here, of course, at the DCL. We fly in incredible locations such as here in Turin and beautiful cities and unusual places around the world and turn them into amazing drone racing tracks. And to do that and to fly in some of the places we do in countries where you can't even fly a drone at any time, for example, to get that access to do these kind of events, we do, of course, have extremely strict safety flights, spotters everywhere, keeping everything absolutely safe. And if you go outside of that, that's what our penalty system is for. So it's 2-1 for X-Blades.
10 seconds countdown.
And here comes the young Kilian Rousseau, who has Thomas Petersons as his opponent. Peterson's view of the blocks. And very, very fast and very, very straight for him, but his lights are flickering and hopefully he hasn't got any other issues with his drone. It would seem his video picture is okay for flying and racing circumstances, but something's up with his LEDs. Anyway, he's in the race. He's only 500ths of a second behind Rousseau. And we know these drones have got speed, but so do X-Blades. So in a straight drag race there, neither given by either flight. But Peterson has hit the Torino Tower, and that is such a shame because that looked like it was going to be such a close race all the way round. But young Kilian Rousseau is going to pick up another heat point for his team. Petersons is wrecked and out of it. And the River Po will be our path towards a little spirally finish in the Red Bull Gate. That's 3-1 for X-Blades. Drone Sports with a lot more to do. They've got a big team ahead of them, and they've got to get at least 2 in the big heat. And Konstantin Kosolopov has been disqualified from it with his red card.
Yet again, we see some loose arms, unfortunately. That drone was not looking too healthy. But that was a very strong hit. Oh, indeed. So he was sliding against the fabric and then the impact was on the metal part, so. But it was a very good hit, actually. They stayed very close on the first lap in the Torino Tower, extremely close. There was a moment when Kilian went right in front of Thomas, very close, trying to get the best possible line.
Someone in YouTube says, Kilian is so fast that radio waves just aren't fast enough to keep up. There's a little bit more than that going on here, I think, but I like the idea. Maybe that's what happened with some of Red Sports as well. Kilian is quick and making a big impact here at the DCL.
He's building up quite a record, that's for sure.
So we have 3-1. And the cards that have been given out, the second yellow, which adds up to a red for Konstantin Kosolopov, means he won't be racing in this. But the yellow that Luke Bannister got will not affect him being in this. If he gets a second yellow later on, then that is going to get him to be disqualified from the next race that he features in. But it means that Kosolopov can't be in this, so he's the guy there with the goggles up. He won't be taking part. 3 pilots from Drone Sports Global will be racing in this.
10 seconds countdown.
And they need first, and they need second. And we go blue up front in numbers, although Petersons does want to play a part of this, and one of the blue ones is down for X-Blades. But Petersons is right up there and scrapping it out with Kilian Rousseau side by side and very, very close indeed. Petersons is taking the lead from all of X-Blades, but Leshak needs to do something because Maximov is out of this. Kosolopov wasn't allowed to start it, and one of the red ones, it's Petersons, isn't it, is in the River Po. X-Blades will be our grand finalists against Apex Racing because Drone Sports Global are not featuring in this at all. Gary Kent has come down as well for X-Blades, so they're only going to get 3 of them to the finish. But to the finish, they'll come now as this race is done. And Drone Sports will leave us in the semis. Not many finisher points picked up in this semi-final stage either. And the team who go out of the semis with the most finisher points get 200 points towards World Championship season for coming 3rd team who go out of the semis who don't get as many get 150. So there's 50 points difference in that. That, you know, it's significant stuff. It looked like those kind of scores were going to make a difference at the end of the World Championship last year.
Let's have a look what happened. I think we lost Gary Kent quite early on. Was it a midder inside of the Torino Tower? It looked like it. Oh, that's extremely close battle. And there you go, goes down. Almost looked like they touched, actually. This is view from Gary. Of course, that was a clean midder. That's how he lost Justice FPV. But his teammates didn't fail, delivered 3 points. Very good. Fantastic performance.
Slightly disappointed, Pavel Leshak joins me here on the stage. Great performance from Drone Sports to get through to the semi-finals, but of course every team wants to win these things. That's right. How are you feeling?
I'm not feeling very well. I'm definitely very disappointed. I was going my best speed. I was going full throttle the whole time on my single heat, so I think I did very well, but just Luke's drone and Luke on his own, he was way too faster. So I'm happy for Next Blaze. They prepared a lot to win this. We will come back stronger tomorrow, spend the whole night fixing drones, and hopefully do better.
That's really sporting of you to wish good luck to X-Blades in this. It's been a real dramatic day for you. You didn't even think you were in the semi-finals. Kirill was saying earlier on, you guys were about to pack up and leave until they got turned around. So your emotions today must have been swinging all over.
Yeah, definitely. We've been very depressed after finishing in second place in our quarterfinals, but just from watching the drones of DMM Raiden Racing, we knew straight away they were way over the limit. So I'm definitely happy we won that race, and hopefully I can do better tomorrow.
Well, when we were in Lax, your first day was disappointing, but the second day, they made it all the way to the grand finals. So another day to come. Pavel, we'll see what Drone Sports Global can do tomorrow. Want me to explain it? We will explain then the grand final between X-Blades Racing and Apex Racing. I think it is not unreasonable to say that many people would predict one of those teams, but after Lax, not the Apex side of that. But that is a buoyant team looking to chase down X-Blades, and X-Blades, of course, coming into a final with confidence, as they always do. Grand final from Torino awaits us. We'll have a short break, bring you some more incredible action and see who's going to be the grand finalist of this, our third stop of the DCL season. We'll be back very soon. Here's a race we've all been looking forward to. Luke Bannister and Mincham Kim, two of the best in the world. And side by side through the start gate, and Bannister has the lead, but Kim won't be scared of that. In many people's eyes, depending on who you either think MCK or Luke Bannister is the best pilot in the world. We'll find out which of them wins this one, their first head-to-head race in the DCL. We have been anticipating this for some time, and look how close these absolutely incredible pilots are. Kim with a little bit of a lead through the Breitling gate now after Bannister. Slightly slower heading towards it, and Bannister's hit the first of the DCL close their gates. He is down, he is wiped out. MCK will take first blood between these two brilliant pilots. Gonna make this a nice clean entrance into the Red Bull crash gate. That is clean, that is done. Bannister, an unusual crash for him. And you can see our Korean pilots on the stage. They quite often show that this is a really precious situation. X-Blades are used to it, but you can see the pressure is starting to show on their faces as well. It is blue and purple through the setting sun of Switzerland. And you really want to wrap this thing up now rather than rely on a single heat. Kim, Kent, Go, Sun, Bannister, legendary pilots. With Ho, Collis and Shake in the fight for this as well. Some of the biggest names in the world of drone racing, all in the air and all still in this race right now. Mincham Kim, MCK is leading it out. Collis may have missed a turn, and that might be a problem for him, but he's so far down the field. Luke Bannister is the one trying to get this done for X-Blades right now. It is looking like Go, Kim, Bannister and Sun as this race is coming to its end. Go wins it. Mincham Kim is in second. Luke Bannister is third. Konstantin Kosolopov, who's had such a dreadful day of it, lagging behind other pilots, is not going to fly. Two of the purple drones for Veloce, I think, have taken each other out. We are in the dark skies of Lax. And Leshak is making it work for Drone Sports Global, but it is Veloce Racing out with Ho leading the way. The Breitling gate sees him launch it around there and take that time. It looks like it is Leshak who is taking this thing. He's got so much of the snowy slopes of Lax all to himself now as drones have come down everywhere. Ho, who was in the lead, is done. Leshak gets a point for Drone Sports Global.
So the thing I love about drone racing is that there's always something more to be gained. I think even if you're the best, there's always someone better than you, and there's always some way that you can push yourself further. So it's kind of a constant evolution. That's kind of the challenge that I enjoy and why I do it so much. Hello, my name is Brett Collis from the United Kingdom, and I'm flying for X-Blades Racing.
The first race of the DCL season is always a little bit of gambling because we did prepare new drones and you never know which one is going to be the best. And so we are confident, but you always have to see what the other teams do. So if there's a faster drone, why is it faster? And yeah.
To become good enough to race in DCL and for X-Blades, it's really just a matter of practicing, just lots of practice experience and a passion for the hobby and the sport. So I practice around once a day when I have drones available, but leading up to this event, I'm not sure many of the teams have had much practice due to all of us building last minute and getting the parts in last minute. So everyone's going onto the track, not really used to the quads. So I suspect the speed will get faster and faster through the event. So we've been using the simulator a lot for practice because it gives us an idea of the track they're about to fly, and the physics in the DCL game are pretty good, along with the fact that we have to use the game for qualification. So the game's been a crucial part in practicing, being able to get track layout and work everything out.
I think drone racing, it gives you a completely different perspective on everything. Wherever you are, whether you're walking through the streets or whether you're walking through the forest or wherever you are, you look at things in a different way, in a way that I don't think you would ever consider unless you were a drone pilot. It's like your mind just expands. You see different possibilities in the surroundings around you. So it's definitely something to put some time and some effort into and learn to fly, because the possibilities feel endless. To get our drones ready, we came up with a frame that was designed by Larry, from a guy from Falcon Multi Rotors, and then we decided on a powertrain, the motors and the speed controllers, which we thought were going to meet the regulations specified by DCL. And then from there, all the parts arrive at our doorstep. And we had a great build process actually. We had, because we've got quite a big team in X-Blades, so many of the other guys, we all went to Brett's and we built for hours and hours on end. But it was good, it was like a production line, and we were all sitting there talking and chatting, and yeah, it was a tough time, but we got through it. We pulled together as a team, not just the pilots that you see here, but the rest of the team behind the scenes as well, like our sim pilots and others as well. So yeah, it was a grueling, it was a tough process, but we pulled together and we got it done. So yeah, it's good.
We had a good battle with Quad Force 1 last year in the championship. Kind of took it in the last race, but I know they're going to come back harder and kind of faster than they were last year. And I think Veloce, all the Korean pilots are really good. So yeah, both of them are kind of our hottest contenders, I think.
I think our biggest competitor is going to be the South Koreans or the Americans, because both have such good and strong pilots, and yeah, actually this year there's no weak team, so every team has a really strong pilots. It's going to be the toughest season ever, and yeah, we're well prepared. We're looking forward to be first again.
X-Blades Racing talking there about their experiences, as they are the two-time reigning world champions, and with the beautiful night lit up sky there of Turin in the background. That is one of the bridges nearby over the River Po. We are racing between that and another one the other way. What are we racing? Drones, and who's racing them? X-Blades and Apex in a grand final. And that is a massive achievement. That really is so different to what we got in Lax in Switzerland. Apex are in this. The blue drones that they have to beat belong to the British X-Blades Racing. Killian Rousseau doing such great work for X-Blades already this evening, as we've seen. Richard's back on our stage. Your guys are doing you proud. You've got Apex to face. I suspect you would have probably thought Veloce might have got there when we saw how the bracket was going to line up. So, well, how have you prepared for Apex?
Well, no, actually, we were expecting to see Apex, a team that we full of admiration for, very professional team. Christian runs a super pro outfit. We know their boys have been working really hard and training really hard, and it's shown on the track today. So, yeah, we're really looking forward to the race. But this is the first time X-Blades has ever had a race against Apex, so it's a first for DCL. And I just want to say a big thank you to the whole team, Dominic, all of our pilots, our technician, especially Harry, amazing guy behind the scenes, and of course all our sponsors who've worked very, very hard to get us here. So we're looking forward to this race.
On the other side of the stage, you've got one of your ex-pilots as well. Thank you, Richard. Yeah, we've got that good old rivalry with the team against one of their ex-teammates. I'm talking about Timothy Trowbridge. I'm talking about Apex Racing. Dan Grace had a good race with them already earlier on. Noah Koch, a little bit of disappointment perhaps for him. Some crashes. I think one of his ended up in the water. Timothy Trowbridge can put one over his old team. Eric Holden can help him do it. Apex Racing, the grand finalists. Great achievement for them. And it is businesslike for these guys. Christian there, team owner of Apex. Look at that smile on Timothy's face. That was not there in the quarterfinals, Andre.
I think he's ready.
They've warmed up now. Got their hands full. Oh, look at this. Here we go. For drone racing lovers everywhere, for people who've been enjoying the DCL for all the years we've been running our seasons and everywhere we've been, Gary Kent and Timothy Trowbridge in two different colors racing against each other. Kent in light blue, Timothy Trowbridge in white. And Trowbridge has got the start of this. He's coming out of the tunnel through the top half of the tower in the lead, but Kent, I think, may have had the bottom part. This could run and run and run. I'm very excited to see his 0.18 of a second. Trowbridge behind Kent. Apex and Drone's got some different speed. Some decent speed in straight lines and turns. Trowbridge has got issues, though. And he doesn't need that interfering with his confidence here. He's into the top half of the tower, no problem there, and he's out of the bottom of it. Kent is a little further away from him now, not too far, but the I-time gate was a little bit slower for Trowbridge as well, so now the time is not that, but it is a few more seconds than it was earlier. Kent starts lap number 3. Trowbridge has got to start closing in on him now. He is a considerable few seconds behind. It's not 10, but it is maybe 3. Trowbridge onto the I-time split S. It's better than it was earlier. It's a little bit more aggressive because he is starting to run out of time, and Kent will start pushing now over the top of the netting and heading towards the end of lap 3, and Trowbridge doesn't seem to be gaining on him. Kent has gone massively high. And it's all over the place, and Trowbridge can win this now, but Trowbridge is in the water.
Look, they're literally transmitting on the feed. Timothy, look, they're transmitting on the feed. Perfect stuff. And it was like...
Unbelievable.
They were saying specific stuff on my feed. Go on. Look, they're literally jamming the feed. What the fuck? But they've been doing on like all of the...
Unbelievable action there. Like, two amazing pilots, crazy things happening. Big problems for our pilots during that race. Guys, we're getting hacked and we have no crisis plan on what to do with this. They're literally putting messages up on the FPVs. I presume you can see that. No one's ever told us what to do. We are being
Those two pilots know themselves. Trained for sure many times, being in one team in the past. It was such a close race. This is very close. It's just a proper exit now. But Gary went a little bit higher. I think there were some technical issues. I think there were some video issues. They're trying to discuss it when it happened exactly.
very, very dramatic. We'll work out what's happened to those two brilliant pilots. We know how good they are.
We could see they stayed so close I mean, they were in one team, obviously, training together. They know their speeds, they know their weaknesses, they know their strengths. It was such a close race.
I want to see more of Gary against Timothy. I never grow tired of seeing either of those pilots race, and to see them against each other is really exciting, of course, as well. But difficult times for both of them there. What I am pleased to see about, which we briefly touched on before that race, but we have a little bit more time to explore. Timothy has asked him in that interview. You could see in the quarterfinals he was like, "This is not really working out for us again." And he looked so despondent in Lax in Switzerland when they just got knocked out there. Had a terrible performance from them in Lax. But when you talk to them in the semi-finals, as I did earlier on, then it's like, no, everything's always been great. We're so happy. Kind of all the problems have been forgotten. They're just in a good place.
I think he's one of those pilots which are motivated by a little bit of a trouble. So if everything is not going exactly smooth, he will find that extra energy to step up his game and try to deliver. I think he's one of those guys. So maybe that little bit of a trouble he experienced today actually helped him to find that energy and get the focus and fly as good as he just did.
Yeah. And Gary Kent, of course, Richard, the owner of X-Blades, called him a legend. He is. He's been with us for so long. Such an incredible pilot too. He's racked up plenty of wins for his team, X-Blades, and all the times we've seen him race for DCL. Brett was Pilot of the Year in terms of races won, in terms of actual points gained for your team across the whole season. That was Brett Collis in 2017, but do you know who he beat by 1 point to do it?
No, I can.
Timothy Trowbridge.
Of course.
Yeah, who was not racing for X-Blades back then. In 2017, Timothy was racing for... Oh, gosh, help me out. I've landed that on you, haven't I?
That was not Swiss Black
I'm
Guides.
thinking that it's not that, is it?
No.
Oh, good God.
No.
In 2017, anyway. Great, work by both of these pilots. They're capable of getting so many wins so many times. And we're going to see much more of both of them throughout the whole season. I'm absolutely sure about that. But...
Makes me wonder.
FPV Racing. That's it.
Ah,
you remember FPV Racing from 2017? You took part in some of the 2017 and 2018 seasons.
Indeed. I think I got to face those people as well, yeah.
Swiss team, yeah, FPV Racing back from 2017. We've had teams, we've had great pilots. We've got many of you joining us again from the drone racing community in the chat as well. Thank you so much for watching with us. Do we go to a break or do you want us to keep talking? So while we clean up what happened between Gary Kent and Timothy Trowbridge, we will hold on to the rest of this grand final because it is going to be a huge grand final. So let's see, what do you want to know from our chat? I see people asking about FBR Dan. Yes, let's talk a little about Daniel Ayer. He's with China Dragons. He is on your picture right there on the right-hand side. He was the #1 pilot in the DCL draft, and then China Dragons picked him in that draft. They flew him in Lax. They're not flying him here. It's up to the teams who they fly from their roster wherever we go. But Dan is here. And as you can see, Corey and Soren walking somewhat more despondently past him right there. But there's Daniel Ayer in the black jersey at the back there, helping out the team. And he's not even flying, but he's come all the way to help them out. And if you're not sure what I mean by the DCL draft... We had it for the first time this year in February at the Cannes International Games Festival in front of 100,000 visitors. DCL has a video game. We have a simulator, DCL the game, which you can play on Steam. You can also get it on PC or Mac. And right now it's free on Early Access. You can play it, fly on our tracks around the world as our pilots do. And if you want to see what it's like, check this out. So yes, DCL the game, you can get that right now for free in early access before its full release later on this year. Early access available through Steam, and you can play it on PC and Mac. If you have a real drone racing controller you can connect over USB, then you can fly with your real drone racing controller. And if you don't worry, keyboard and other options, gamepads and so on, that's all available too. And that's what our gamers did. We invited people at the start of this year to play DCL the game and to clock up their best times across 4 different tracks, and then we invited the best of them to join us, as I said, at the Cannes International Games Festival. 58 pilots came. They brought themselves there from all over the world. One of the pilots who traveled the furthest, if not the furthest, was Daniel Ayer, who we were talking about just now for China Dragon. So these pilots came to the Cannes International Games Festival, and we gave them the chance to show our 7 professional team captains, the guys who you've been hearing from tonight about their pilots. We gave these gamers a chance to show those pilots, those team owners, what they can do. And it was thrilling stuff. You were there doing show races as well, Andre.
Indeed.
Along with a few other pilots who are known so well from the DCL. And these gamers turned up, and we're doing head-to-head races, a little bit of interviewing with me, that kind of thing, to show these team owners what they could do. Great performances from them, great races as well. You had fun flying real drones while they were flying in the game.
Absolutely. It was very much fun, but I was quite surprised by maturity of the candidates. A lot of them were very much ready to step on the stage and start racing for real, which was quite impressive to see. It was also a very good test to check the spirit.
And we set them some big challenges too. You see here at an event like this, we do get technical issues, and our pilots have to manage with things. And then we've had other issues in the history where Quad Force One, for example, in their first race of 2018 in the Munich Olympic Park, their drones were impounded by customs.
So
they couldn't even fly their own kit on the first day of the season. What happened? Other teams helped them out. That's how the DCL is done. Everybody helps make this happen. On the second day of racing, they had a much better performance because they got their kit back, and then they made it, I think, all the way to the final. But that kind of happens sometimes. Technical issues happen. So we set these gamers this challenge. We told them, you can't use your controllers, you can use ours. And you're talking about Spirit, Andre. A number of them, well, in fact, the vast, vast majority of them were all cheering like, yeah, all right, we want this challenge. But I could see from the stage when I told them this news, a few of them were broken at that point. And that's Spirit right there. You need to be ready to deal with whatever technical challenge you might face.
Absolutely.
You're going to race drones, you know, flying video cameras live at 140 kilometers an hour in a city, or at the Great Wall of China, or 150 meters underground in a salt mine, as you've seen some of the footage from earlier on, which was a brilliant experience back in Salina Turda. I'm sure you know that one well.
I think this one I will never forget. Indeed, that was a very memorable race for me. As a member back then of IRC Racing, we did very well there. And it was fantastic scenery. I mean, unheard of as well. I mean, who else could actually organize a race underground in the salt mine and actually get all the gear there? To this day, I actually wonder how they managed to do it.
Yeah, to get into that salt mine involved a lot of stairs, some shallow ones, some steeper ones, barely any lifts, and nowhere near enough for the amount of people moving around. And how the kit got down to the bottom, I really don't know either, except that we have incredibly hardworking people here at the DCL, and that Salina Turda Salt Mine is a tourist attraction and a beautiful place that's well worth checking out if you ever find yourself in Transylvania, which is where it actually was when we raced at Halloween. I'm not kidding. We were talking a little bit about DCL the game, excuse me, and how our gamers qualified for it. We use that game too for qualifying here, as well as using it at the start of a season for the teams to pick up pilots, and you can be involved in that. Get the game and get good on it. As well as seeing the gamers qualify to get a chance to play to fly for real here, such as Daniel Ayer and others. This is what our qualifying looks like. The qualifying we actually did for Turin, if we show you the best pilot of every team. So the pilots you're watching here, the real ones flying for real here in Italy, they do qualifying from home before they fly out to our track. So this is how they get to learn it. And then they actually set their qualifying times, and this is how we rank the teams for day one. And this, I think, is the best. In dark blue there, that is the best pilot of them all. Number 1 for Quad Force One.
I believe that
was Evan Turner, who was best in qualifying overall. So I think you're seeing Evan Turner there, and his route, which took Quad Force One to number 1 in qualifying. But they put a lot of time in, although as we were finding out from some pilots, some of them more than others. Gary Kent I'll set you a quiz, actually, in YouTube and Facebook. You can try and figure this out for me. Gary Kent and Evan Turner.
That's a good one.
Who do you think spends longer learning a track? Who do you think, out of Gary Kent of X-Blades Racing and Evan Turner of Quad Force One, who do you think spends the most time, says it takes them the most time in DCL the game to learn our tracks? One of them reckons it takes them 30 minutes. One of them reckons it takes them 30 hours. And that's their words. Gary Kent and Evan Turner. One of them needs 30 minutes, and he's got a new track learnt. Not necessarily nailed, but learnt. The other one, 30 hours. Have a go. Let us know in YouTube and Facebook who you think is who. So as we continue with some technical problems that we are having here with our drones in Torino, this is, of course, the third stop of our season. If you go on our website where you can find us, we are dcl.aero. dcl.aero is where you can find our site of the DCL, see more about our pilots and find out where we're going to be at and where we've been and all the news of the DCL. That, of course, is on dcl.aero. You can also find us on all of the channels as you would expect. You can find us on YouTube and Facebook if you aren't already. We are youtube.com/Drone Champions League, facebook.com/Drone Champions League. We're also on Instagram/Drone Champions League, and we're on Twitter, Drone Champions L, because they like not having too many characters on Twitter, of course. So there you go. It's Drone Champions League, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and Drone Champions L on Twitter, and I'm Matt Andrews TV on all of those things if you'd like to come behind the scenes of the Drone Champions League and more as well. This is our third stop. Tomorrow we'll be live to you from 7 p.m. Central European Time with our fourth race of our season. If you go to dcl.aero, you can get a little bit of a heads up on where else we may be going. And I'm going to say no more than that right now. 2 races in each of our locations. We've gone from that beautiful site, 2,252 meters above sea level in Lax in Switzerland. And when the sun went down, we got very, very cold. Now we're here in 20-something degrees. It was about 28 when we started. It's a little bit less now, of course, since we're into the nighttime. It's very different conditions, and when you see where we're going next, you'll realize that we do like to set our pilots some interesting places and challenges to race on. That's one of the features here in Turin, overlooking our beautiful track.
As a pilot, I cannot help to think that that would make for an interesting element by itself.
Our first stops of the season, that cold but so crisp and beautiful, biggest, most popular snowboarding park in Europe, Lax in Switzerland. We went up and we had fun. Let's show you again some of the incredible races that these incredible pilots gave us. Ten seconds to go before Collis takes on Mortensen. And as usual, Collis is the slightly slower of the 2 starts because he doesn't tend to be first out of the blocks. However, he is first through the first gate and away, and Mortensen's going to have to catch him up now because Collis has passed him, and as they head towards the Breitling gate, Mortensen takes him before he reaches it and is ahead of him on the exit. They'll come to the other side of the half-pipe, but it's Collis back in the lead. Collis will take the second DCL gate and the Zurich Switzerland gate very quickly. Mortensen's got a lot of speed, but he's got extremely wide. A very round route for him there, but through the Stayat gate he'll come. Collis still got the lead through one side of McDonald's. Mortensen not far behind him now. Not much in this. We're in the middle of our second lap. There's the Breitling gate. It's a little bit more hesitant for Mortensen. He might gift it away to Collis now, who's almost a second ahead of him. To the Zurich Switzerland gate, Brett flies. Will come towards the pylons. Mortensen's still about a second behind him, I think. Collis comes down to ride time and is not home! And neither is Mortensen! And the camera folks come out for everybody here in Lax if they weren't already. And now that is a really difficult challenge because I don't think either of those drones are in the Red Bull crash gate, and in is where you need to be. He's got his goggles on. Looking ready. Going, Peterson's out of the block and almost into a mid-air between them as their paths converged. But there's a fifth of a second between them after the pylons are finished. And the McDonald's gate go heading very low down, and Peterson's has carried the lowest speed and closed that gap up. It's still nearly a 3/10 of a second, but you saw that gap close and then extend away again and go extends it again. The speed he's got there towards the pylons is brilliant. He'll bring that around past the I-time gate, and Peterson's has got a second lap in which to try and catch him now. Go towards the Breitling gate and the new turn that they've all been doing today. That is clean from both of them. Half a second between them. Peterson's is getting more aggressive. You can see him attack that DCL close their gate as he wanted to close that gap, but it looks like it may have backfired for him as he is not in the picture anymore. Go makes it. When he makes it, 3. Peterson's is coming in now. The finishes are getting quick. The pilots are getting to grips with this Red Bull crash gate. Dennis Hochman in his seat, ready to fly for China Dragons. And to the air they both go. Pretty evens on the start. Isla had the lead, it seemed, around the pylons. Hochman in front of him. Isla's getting in trouble with the Sayat gate entry, and Hochman starts to pull away. Breitling gate next to the half pipe is currently Hochman's, but he's under review. WF for wrong flight. That means he may have missed the gate or gone outside of track limits. That'll get investigated later on. But first, let's see who wins this race and whether Isla bags the point anyway. Currently, he's in the lead, 25.22, and Hochman 1 second behind him as they start the second lap. Isla swinging a little bit wildly there. Hochman still behind him. McDonald's gate is fine. The Breitling gate entry is a little bit slower. Isla is still in the lead. Hochman hasn't even made that Breitling turn yet. As you see, he'll now come over the gates, over the pipe. Isla is a long way ahead. He's finished his second lap. He'll complete the pylons in the I-time turn. It doesn't matter if Hochman went out of the course, or does it? Because Isla hasn't finished. He's down on the snow after hitting the crash gate and crashing. Hochman's still in the air. Hochman's in the crash gate first. That is unbelievable. That's his view, hanging inside the crash gate. And Isla is furious. Back to you here from Turin in Italy, where racing is ready to enthrall and excite you between Apex Racing and X-Blades Racing. It was our grand final of the first day. Remember, we're back again tomorrow, but this is how it worked out earlier on today. You saw Apex's route after that surprise result, really, to be honest, over Veloce. A few things going. Started off badly for a couple of their pilots with video issues, but didn't let it get to them. Turned it around and made it to semis, and then beat out the wildcard in-drone team. Whereas X-Blades Racing pushed China Dragons aside, and then the Russians of Drone Sports in the semi-finals to get their route to the grand final. We're going to start it again after Gary Kent and Timothy Trowbridge. We're only doing single heat number 1, and that race was interrupted with some technical problems for both pilots. We will let that race happen again, but that's single heat number 1. And I think we're going to start with single heat number 2 just to give them more chance to get drones ready and so on like that. So X-Blades Racing and Apex is ready to come back to you. 250 points to the winner of this towards the World Championship season. 220 for second place. That's a big leap up the scoreboard for Apex Racing, regardless of what happens. But X-Blades, you know, their main competitors expected for this season, Quad Force 1 and Veloce Racing, they aren't picking up very much, if anything at all, today. And in fact, one of them won't get anything. Mathematically, it's not possible for them both to score. So a big chance for X-Blades Racing to make a big leap ahead, but we're only on our 3rd day of the season. There's another one tomorrow, and there are plenty more races to be excited about for the rest of DCL. There's a couple of the guys. There's Gary and Brett, and our race director, Fabian, looking relaxed, looking fairly happy. Dominic, team manager, and Lucas Baumann all getting ready to regroup back onto stage, I think. Bit of a backstage discussion before these pilots return. Looks like happy faces on Brett. Looks pretty calm and relaxed. They're both pilots, Gary and Brett, who'd said, stress, what stress? No, doesn't mean anything to them. Ice in the veins. So who's got this? Andre, from what you've seen,
very difficult
do you
to
think
say.
like X-Blades would be the favorite in most people's eyes? They're the 2-time reigning world champion, but Timothy Trowbridge was with them when they did that, and he's on Apex, and he's got a very buoyant and very energetic team around him who are doing well. Have Apex got it in them today? They'll have some confidence, as you saw on stage.
I think they have a very big chance. The reason why I say it is I know all those pilots from different times where we met, and they are extremely talented pilots. And I actually asked them how much time they spent on training for DCL, because we are racing slightly different platform. The drones are a little bit bigger, they fly slightly differently, we have to adhere to the power limit, we have to meet quite a few requirements, and from what I hear they spend enough time training so they could actually translate the talent I know already to World of Drone Champions League, which would be quite interesting. And to be honest, I'm not sure who's gonna take it. I think it's I think this is a very close. This could be a very close battle indeed. As we saw, that first heat itself showed us that Timmy was staying very close with Gary, and if not the issue they experienced, it would be actually hard to say who would take it. That could mean for an excellent battle.
Eric Holden there, looking a little less happy than he was. And X-Blades backstage, getting ready to go. I see Matthew Evans is starting a discussion in YouTube about tea, which is something that I see out of the corner of my eye and think, really? Okay, but how do we make tea? What goes in first? What goes on first on a scone or scone? Jam and cream. That's where we've got. I like the lip reading that's going on. I'm sure you're absolutely right about this. I think you'll find it's water in first, and then a tea bag, and then milk, and then sugar. Thank you. I'll happily accept that in any order, as long as someone brings it to me. Thank you so much. Yes, I have milk and tea. Huso FPV. I'm an Englishman. That's what we do. I've been told that's called pregnancy tea in other countries. Yeah. Well, that's how I drink it. Oh, look at those quads. Don't they look good? And slightly grubby for number 97. We've added pilot numbers. That hasn't happened before. We've not had pilot numbers on drones in the past, and it's quite interesting because we let the pilots choose their number for the season, first come, first served. Apex grabbed 96, 97, 98, and 99.
Excellent.
X-Blades grabbed 1, 2, 3, 4.
There you go.
Which is, I mean, I don't know if Apex tried to get 1, 2, 3, 4, and when they couldn't, they decided to go the other way.
Possibly so. I would say so, yeah.
It's a very interesting comparison, I think.
We could also see a glimpse of Apex drone, which had actually additional weight on it. So what happens is, if the drone is too light, it has to meet minimum weight requirement, and therefore they have to add weight to it. So they can use little weight, like we saw, little block, which they can stick. In this case, it was straight on glued to the canopy, and therefore they can meet the required weight. Somehow this season we have less problems with heavy drones. It seems to be everyone is able to build very light quads. And then they have to sit right at the limit.
As our pilots return to the stage here in Turin, or soon to return to the stage here in Turin, we've shown you a little bit of the team managers. It's something we wanted to bring to you here from DCL to let you find out how these teams tick, how it works, and what it's like behind the scenes as a professional drone racing team. Let's let the managers tell you more about that themselves.
Hi, my name is Dominik Roch. I'm from Germany, and I'm the team manager for X-Blades drone racing team.
My name is Christian Moller. I'm the CEO and team owner of Apex Racing.
I am HJ Son. I'm from Korea. I'm in the Veloce racing team.
My name is Jerry Dwayne Walker Jr. I'm from the United States of America, and I am the team manager for Quad Force 1.
Hello, this is Hom Sha from Shanghai, China. I'm team manager for Team China Dragons.
My role as a team manager basically involves the whole organization, scheduling of the whole season, selecting the events that we are going, and of course the preparation. Also the team selection, the whole internal ranking of the team, how we rank our pilots, all the good stuff.
My role is to be the CEO and for now also the team manager. We founded the company in order to inspire the future generations to look into technology, and we found that drone racing is a great way of exposing technology to a young audience.
Yeah, I'm training all my pilots, and I'm managing all races. I'm analyzing everything.
Well, what I'm looking for to select a good team member, from my experience, the first is a good guy. And second, he is passionate for this sport.
So in our selection of pilots, we're looking at like 3 things. They have to be super fast and super consistent in the flying, but they also have to be like professional athletes. They have to train and think of themselves as professional athletes, and that's what we're looking for. So they also understand the whole game about sponsorship and media entertainment.
I always, ask the pilots good characters and good politics and skills as well. But most of the thing is I'm looking for the good character and good skills.
In our team, we are always looking to have a big pool of talent available. That's why we have many pilots to choose of. And we have a system which is like our internal ranking, which is based on different factors like general performance, also performance in front of media, overall social media activities, stuff like that. And then we have an overall combined ranking, and that decides basically which pilots go to which events.
To prepare for the season, we have had several obstacles to overcome, but the great thing about our team is we come together, we fight, we do what we need to do to get it taken care of and get out there and fly.
The preparation process for DCL, I can speak only for our teams, but I'm more than sure it's the same for everybody. It's hundreds of hours. Like really, we have a team of 8 people building drones for over a week, and the whole development process with all the new rules introduced where you have to work with them and stuff like that. So it's countless hours actually.
Our preparations for the event has mainly been on the designing, engineering and building of the drones. Of course, a bit of testing, but it's the first time we use this drone platform. So a lot of engineering and a lot of design going into the process. That has taken him almost 1 month.
I think most teams want to be winning this DCL 2019. Actually, I need it mostly because I have sponsors. First year, I need to do best things that means I can do next year. So I'm desperate, right? I desperate for winning.
I'm more than confident that we are going to win this championship again. We've done it 3 times in a row now. We've won every DCL championship so far, and we really wish to continue this story.
I think all the teams here are going to be amazing this year. The older ones getting stronger, the newcomer ones, the pilots, it's just so experienced and they are like superstar. So I don't think there is any weak teams. So this is going to be an epic year for DCL and for all the pilots.
The venue here in Largs is absolutely amazing, as we are used to this from DCL already, but I think this one to start the season is really like a massive one. The view is beautiful, the location is beautiful. There are lots of people here, lots of spectators for the new sport actually. So it's really good, really well chosen, and I can't wait to race this track.
I think the location of the first race, 2019 for DCL, is amazing. It blows your mind, especially your first time here. But every time DCL give a surprise. So yeah, we just be spoiled, I guess.
The location here in Largs will be extremely hard to beat for DCL in the future.
This location in Largs and in the ski resort is great. I think it tells something else about what drone racing also could be and another look into the future. And yeah, so for the sport, it's great. And I think for the pilots, also a great experience.
Yeah, I never seen this scenery, All mountain is snow, there's over the 2,000 meters. In Korea is below the 2,000 meters, the highest mountain, but I never been like this height without airplane, So I love this place. I love it.
Our grand final of great proportions. Only a third race of all the ones we're doing this year, but already very exciting. That is awaiting us here in Turin and between X-Blades and Apex, and we'll show you a little bit of the semi-finals to see how they got here in very dramatic fashion for both teams. A very kind of strong performance from X-Blades as we're used to having. Matt and Andre here live to you from Turin. A very strong performance from X-Blades we saw, but Apex has just been on a journey today.
Indeed, there was some trouble.
Let's have a look at single heat number 2 from when Apex were facing the wildcard team. So, you know, pilots they don't know so well, pilots you can't necessarily prepare for if you like to think about who your real position actually are going to be.
Indeed.
And Timothy Trowbridge, who has been having some video issues, but still managed to do incredibly technical flying right here.
As a pilot, I still cannot get over the Torino Tower. It's such a nice element to fly. It opens so many possibilities to actually try to get that best line and secure a good spot. It's all about winning time. This is also a very, very crucial thing, split S, unless it goes like that. This is definitely not the way to execute it. That moment when I believe it was Brett who indeed landed in the safety net.
Yeah, it is challenging, that Torino Tower. We've not had anything like that before, not with like the two parts of what we think of as a ladder in drone racing obstacles, except this time you go right and then you also go left, which is why it's not kind of a classical ladder.
Indeed.
Here's the right-hand 360 that you do, shown by Gary Kent, and then there was very much a 720, 1080 going on, which you didn't intend for. But that was Bannister picking up the win there in one of the bigger heats earlier.
I think what happens is all those pilots are very talented and actually quite professional, so they are used to flying the most bizarre obstacles, and I think the more elements like that we introduce, the more fun they have as pilots, training them and in the end flying them.
Let me ask you about a very specific point that one of our pilots ahead of this final said when we're talking about their track and how they face it. Dane Grace of Apex Racing. We asked all of our pilots, what do you find easier? What do you like? What obstacles, sort of things do you like? What tracks do you like? And what do you find difficult? A lot of our pilots like split S's. Well, good, because that's the I-time gate here. Dane Grace said that of all the things we could present him with, he finds right turns the most difficult.
This is an excellent question. What happens is apparently everyone has a dominant side of the brain and therefore dominant or favorite turn to take. So it must mean that basically he actually indeed prefers left-hand turns. For a while I had the same, but what happened with me as a pilot, I was just constantly training that left-hand turns to a point where it basically doesn't even matter. I think I still have a preference for right-hand turns.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't matter anymore. You just commit to a training, and of course you profile your training, include the elements which require work, and you just polish it out, and it doesn't matter anymore. But I can actually relate to what he says. I had it for a while as well.
So right-hand turns.
Indeed.
There's nothing that makes them intrinsically more difficult than left-hand turns. It's not the turn of the Earth.
Indeed. I mean,
The
it's
way
the same
the
thing.
Earth spins.
Also, FPV tracks include mixture of both, always. There should be, obviously, a good balance of both.
This one's a tricky course, of course, because it looks a little bit like it's all left-hand, and a lot of the turns are. The big one at either end of the straights, of course, but then we do have, that split S and then the tower.
Yeah. You know, I actually read that Minjai, who is such a young pilot at only his 10 years, that he actually said that he needs to work on his split S maneuvers. I was watching him practice. He has zero fear. He's definitely going for the win. But it's interesting to see how experienced pilots have entirely different perspective on what's difficult or what maybe possibly requires a little bit more work versus someone who flies only for a year. this young gentleman is flying for a year.
Yeah.
Just a year.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can do. It's amazing what you can learn. So if you've ever fancied flying a drone,
I would say
get one and get practicing. But before you do that, you could always download DCL the game. And you get some hands-on time, and you can plug a real drone controller into that as well when you get one.
Yeah, it's extremely valid tool, especially probably when it comes to simulating certain scenarios and just training it over and over again.
So technical issues were causing us some problems here in Italy, but we have fought our way through them and cleaned things up for our pilots to give them the best opportunity to show us what the best pilots can do. So thank you for your patience, and thank you everybody for sticking around. I gather some tea is helping you all hang around with us, and I'm all for that too. So good, whatever you need, whatever keeps you enjoying the show. I know it's racing that you want to see. We have a great final ahead as well, so thank you for hanging around with us, YouTube, Facebook, and everybody who is here. Now, what you want to know is why there's been such a giant delay, and there was a little bit of speculation as to what has led to that and what's caused this big delay that we've been having. Well, I'll tell you. We're the Drone Champions League. We will tell you what's happened. Somebody tried to block us. In Torino, right here, someone tried to block the frequencies that we're using to take over and spoil the video picture for these pilots during the final. I tell you that because we know that, and we know that because we've caught them and the police have them right now. So for everybody who enjoys drone racing and has been wanting to see a final between these two incredible teams, you're going to get it now, and the person who tried to stop it for you isn't going to be doing that again for a long time. But it does mean here in the city of Turin, who have already extended our airtime by over half an hour, which we are incredibly grateful for. So thank you to all of the local authorities for letting us carry on racing. They have closed roads, closed the river, and gone to huge lengths for this. And we have overrun by over half an hour. So this does mean that our grand final between X-Blades and Apex is going to come down to just one big heat. Just one big heat is all we are allowed to fly for you now due to it being so incredibly late here. We started over 3.5 hours ago. We were supposed to finish by 11. The authorities have let us carry on. The drones are ready. We are going to bring you this big heat of the grand final. I'm sorry you're not going to get more of this between Apex and X-Blades, but here it comes. This is the final. We will make a champion right now. So here we go, in light blue for X-Blades Racing and in white for Apex. It's take it all right now. And so Brett Collis will go up to the front, and 2, maybe 3 drones are down into the water already, and it's not down to video pictures as it is all clean on everybody's feed. Halfway through lap number 1, and we start making our way back with Apex and X-Blades still in this. It looks like it's white and then blue up front. It's Apex Racing who are looking like they've got the lead through iTime. And around to the start of the second lap, it looks like it is Eric Holden who might have the lead of this. Brett Collis on board with Brett Collis, who has got Eric Holden to catch. You see him entering the Torino Tower ahead of Brett Collis there. He had a view of his entry, and as he completes the turn and exits through it now, it's getting away from him. Holden is leaving Collis behind and starting to pull. Collis is onto the straight with Holden, but there's a big gap now, and it's got to get done. Grace is in this fight too behind them, but Holden is looking like he's going to take Apex to the championship points today as he makes it to the finish. And Brett Collis pulled a 1.5 second deficit down to 1. But that is a win for Eric Holden, the new pilot of Apex Racing, and that is going to be a win for them on our stage here in Turin. on our stage. Good handshakes from everybody. An incredibly difficult situation for all of them. But the police are involved with the incident that stopped our racing for a while. Thank you for your patience to our pilots and everybody who's joined us here, whether you're watching online or on TV or here in Turin. A great, but unfortunately brief grand final. Look at all the drones in the tower.
Again, very close. Oh, immediately we can see 2 drones falling. That was super tight. Oh yes. There's 1 meter and there is a 2nd meter. Well, that's definitely a showstopper, but Brett is able to land after white drone, and then Dane Grace is taking it, indeed. I'm not sure if this is what Matt was expecting when he asked me about who do I think will win. I was absolutely unable to say, but there we go. 1 point for Apex.
Well, after a dramatic day's racing and other drama as well, to be fair, we get a champion at the end of the day, and it is Apex Racing. Yes. Sort of sinking in because it's been hard to get. I know it was a huge delay ahead of that final while we were dealing with the incident here on site, but you get it. And as you said to me just now, Timothy, just before we went live, you said that's not the way we wanted to do it. Fair enough. Of course, you want to show what you can do across all the single heats, but you were always hoping to win it anyway, weren't you?
Of course, yeah, because I mean, there's always something good in beating the team that you left. So, yeah, I mean, I was hoping for it.
Of course you were, and I think that's completely understandable, and I may have mentioned that along the way as well, and I'm not sorry. Dane, how has this been for you? Such a different weekend compared to our racing in Lax.
Yeah, I'm really happy that it's going much better than last time. We started Apex 1.5 years ago, and it's great to finally be here on top. And yeah, I'm just happy for the team. Sorry for the video issues, but that's just how it is.
It's been a long time coming, not just in this season, but in total. As you say, Apex has been sort of forming for a while now. Timothy, you must be very pleased with who you're racing with.
Oh yeah, we got like a top team now with Eric, top pilot, Noah, also one of the best guys in Sweden. Dane, obviously a long-known name, and yeah, myself.
I think emotions are starting to settle in. Good, because they should. You are the champions here in Torino. Congratulations to Apex Racing. Well, it's been a big and very long day. At 20 to midnight is when we're finishing. Thank you again to the Turin authorities for letting us continue our racing. And the final results look like this. 250 points to the champions of the day, who are Apex Racing. X-Blades will be disappointed not to win that final, but 220 points is a big step for them, as you'll see. In Drone Team, our wildcard team continue what the McDonald's wildcard team did in Lax, and they pick up 200 points for coming third, as they got more finisher points than Drone Sports Global from Russia did, which is why they're down in 150 points from 4th place. And then of the 4 teams who left us in the quarterfinals, the team with the most finisher points get 5th. That is Veloce Racing. 80 points go to them. China Dragons and DMM Raiden Racing again don't score anything. And Quad Force 1 are coming out of this with nothing as well. So that shakes the leaderboard up a little bit, as now X-Blades have got a bit of a lead over Veloce, whereas they started the day both on 400 points. Apex Racing, who were languishing a bit behind, have now leapt up to 3rd. And Drone Sports, Quad Force 1 still in there. DMM Raiden Racing and China Dragons still on nothing for the season. We will go to the prize giving on our stage. We welcome Paola Pisano, the Deputy Mayor for Innovation of the City of Turin, who will take us through our prize giving, starting off with our team in 3rd place, who are the wildcard team of In Drone Team. Back onto our stage, In Drone Team. Here they come. We welcome them back. Congratulations, guys. A brilliant performance from them. Some technical issues for Quad Force 1 helping that first quarterfinal, but they earned it. We're talking about Marc Roman, Isaac Massot Salah, Mikel Garriga Sanchez, and Marcel Isha Bergel. They are the In Drone Team. And thank you again to Paola Pisano, the Deputy Mayor for Innovation of the City of Turin, who presents In Drone Team with 3rd place here in Turin. Now our runners-up of the Drone Grand Prix of Turin, they are X-Blades Racing. Brett Collis with Luke Bannister, Killian Rousseau making a great first appearance, and Gary Kent. Leaders in the World Championship after the points they've acquired here, but runners-up of today's racing in Turin, with Harry and Dominic joining them as well. Paolo Pisano presents X-Blades Racing with our runners-up trophy. And we welcome to the stage champions of today's racing in Turin. They are Apex Racing. Norway's Eric Holden, Holdox FPV. Sweden's Noah Koch, Unreal FPV. Dane Grace, who's here from Denmark, and Timothy Trowbridge from the UK, and of course from Switzerland as well. Temple Claws rounds out the team. The champions of Turin, thank you, Paola Pisano, presenting it to Apex Racing. And I told you we might spray some champagne on the stage. I promised you that at the start of the show. I think you're going to get that, and Apex are going to enjoy this moment, because it did not look like it was going to be theirs, but they're the champion here in Turin after the quarterfinal, which still after some early races that maybe they would be leaving soon. Nope. X-Blades, they're used to some champagne sprayed all over them, but I hope you're enjoying the moment in Drone Team for your brilliant 3rd place. Great performance from all of these pilots. Great day's racing from all of the 8 teams, but it is Apex Racing who claim it. Andre, last words from you about an amazing day's racing. We have more of this to look forward to tomorrow as well.
Absolutely, cannot wait. We've seen amazing racing today. It was very close for a lot of those pilots. I cannot wait for tomorrow and see what's going to happen.
There's going to be some drones fixed and built overnight, particularly in the hands of the Americans teams. We've got, I think, all of the drones out of the river. They're going to need to be dried out somewhere, but you know what? Turin is quite hot. I don't think that's going to take too much time, particularly in the morning. And we'll be back again tomorrow, live to you on YouTube and Facebook and wherever you find us from 7 p.m. Central European time. Can Apex pick up 2? Can X-Blades go 1 better than they did today? Where are Quad Force 1, DMM Raiden Racing and China Dragons going to turn out? We will let you know tomorrow. Join us live for more racing alongside the River Po from this beautiful city. From Andre Krasny, I've been Matt Andrews. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you tomorrow from 7.